Ndigbo is not in APGA, but will collaborate with the ruling party.
Peter Obi APGA. Why can't we adopt Peter Obi?
It is rather the other way around. APGA melu Peter Obi. Because it seems that it's a consistent effort to annihilate the party that made him. Today you are in party A, in the evening you are in party B, the next day you are in party C. Some persons have gone around 5 political parties. It's just an opportunist looking for a platform. Politicians don't believe in political parties. They just see parties as vehicle of opportunity. Finish. I'm not one of those that is so keen on Igbo president. What we need is healthy Southeast regional economic collaboration and development. In fact, if you look at the demographics, you see that we are highly disadvantaged as a people. Most times, the votes that come out of the 5 Southeast states may not be up to the votes that come out of Kano State alone. If an Igbo man is the president, the Hausa man will not believe that he's doing anything good. If a Yoruba man is president, the Igbo man will never believe that he's doing anything good because we reason along regional lines. Nigeria, we healthy, my own dear native land. Though tribes and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. That's the highest point of that anthem. It is a constant reminder of what binds us together, that unity in diversity. A lawyer in active practice is not supposed to engage in any other business other than maybe farming. It's actually professional misconduct that can even lead to someone being derobed. There is this notion that lawyers in politics don't know anything in law, because most lawyers who are grounded, you can't have time to go and play politics.
Yes.
APGA was a product of a clarion call for emancipation of Ndigbo, to give them a voice in the polity of our nation. Today in APGA, we have 36 state chapters. We have the APGA Zamfara state chapter. We have the APGA Kaduna state chapter. We have a state chairman in Zamfara. Functioning. It must be national in outlook, even though it maintains that regional appeal. If God wants to make your life on earth hell, he will give you a wife.
You know there.
If God wants to make your life on earth heaven, he will still give you a wife. Mr. Peter Obi, of course, is till tomorrow remains one of the persons we are grateful to for his time in APGA. If we call APGA Hall of Fame, I think you should be comfortably seated there.
Gbam, 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 gbam. Ndị be anyị maka esi eme ya n'oge gbam ụmụ ebe anyị nọ, ebe bụrụ anyị kpọpe ya ọ na-agbasịsị ebe bụrụ anyị kwụnye ya n'ọkụ na-ele ọ bụrụ na ị nwere obi ụtọ na ivi n'oge ma n'opu bọde afọ mbụ Chukwu ji oke igwe ndụ odogwu ya mbepe ezigbote onye aba gbamgbo ebe na-akpọta ndị ọdịkọdị anyị ndị big talkers ndị nwere ike iji anana ndị bụ nova kwuo onye ọda gbam ọ bụrụ ndara gbam ịma na ọbụrụ gbam tata anyị nwere amụ nwoke ya bụrụ nwoke eze nwata ụmụocho a man that some of you nwere ike I forgot onye before 1 or 2 times. Of course, this is a Chief Bar.Sly Ezeokenwa, the National Chairman of Progressive Grand Alliance. APGA, the foremost progressive.
That's not APGA.
APGA. Mobile on the way. Gbam, no, na keep bazwa. Ibu National Legal Advisor.
Well, obo na yese ka esi bido. I ga-eje na State Legal Advisor.
Okay.
I was the State Legal Advisor from 2015 to 2019. Then National Legal Advisor from 2019 to 2023. Even in between that tenure, in 2022, I was appointed the Honorable Commissioner for Special Duties,
yes,
Anambra State.
Yes.
And then by May 2023, precisely on the 31st of May, the party and say, okay, ka nye ndị ntorobịa ogere ka ma ga-etinye kwa aka n'ebe a na-eme n'obodo anyị bụ Nigeria. And then I was elected the National Chairman of APGA on the 31st of May 2023. And so it's a gradual ascension.
The trajectory.
Absolutely.
Dalorin, because feel free, it's any language.
Well, I'm only Igbo.
Yes.
Only Igbo.
Yes.
So
my English me Igbo, because the idea of Gbam is to communicate. Can they buy malify na ko? Kawala anyị kedu onye bụ Sly Ezeokenwa? Ganiru.
Ịma ajụjụ a isika maka maybe well, let us attempt an answer. Sly was a young man who was born and brought up in Onitsha.
Otu.
Yes, all the very important for us to make that point. How mezigbo nwa otu. When the baby tozi hekpazi so no nwa Fege.
Okay.
Because I was born in Fege, a place called Fege in Onitsha. I remember anyway this passage in the Bible and I say, can anything good come out of Nazareth? You know. Those days, Iba na Fege, the name Fege was synonymous with, you know, very uncultured and unmannered set of people. And so, you know, that was the place where I was born. Ebanwa can go primary school. Actually, and that's why Anambra today because I go public primary school. The name of the school actually is Niger City Primary School. First of all, a guy from the man and school and a guy. Man, for me, my mother then was a teacher, so it was like I had a nomadic education. Nomadic education, anaga, bologenaga, school of na name no. So the school.
Yes.
So she was in Agai Primary School when I was in primary 1 to primary 3.
Okay.
Then I think when go say primary 3, I transfer her to Niger City.
Okay.
So look here, Niger City. Go from primary 4 to primary 6. Private school. Then you know, public primary school, but the end thing then.
Yes.
And then from Agai, from Niger City, we proceeded to Christ the King College, CKC Onitsha. You know, go from JS1 up till JS3. In fact, started from beginning to the end. Before we now proceeded to University of Nigeria. Yes, Inter Paris. So before I proceeded to University of Nigeria Enugu campus, where I studied law and then ultimately in the law school.
Okay.
And so, in a nutshell, Sly is just a young man who came from a very humble background, because that's one thing I don't fail to state. From a very, very humble background. My mom was a primary school teacher, my dad a businessman. At some point, you know, proudly was a driver, because you know, at some point, and then, but the connection to APGA, Bona, my father was one of the foundation members of APGA upon formation, because he was a pioneer local government party chairman on the South. And so it's as good as this is the first and only political party I've ever been a member of. So I was in the university when APGA was registered as a political party. And then as a young man, Papiabo, national local government party chairman. And then it was, because the beautiful thing then, when APGA was a product of passion. And I really love, because part of what we are trying to create, not the possible, can the bany de kwa passionate or to hade, because he na anyi chete mbem Nnamdi Azikiwe no. You know, as a student, you know, I read, you know, history and government very well. I was very, very, you know, interested in the evolution of Nigerian's political history, from the pre-independence, the colonial period, to the independence and then the post-independence. But there was one party. Ndigbo ji chịkọta onwe ha mgbe anwa. Ihe akpọrọ ya bụ APGA. But enwe ndị ka na-akpọ APGA. The United Progressives Grand Alliance. The same symbol APGA nwe today ka o nwelu.
Ọkụkọ Igbo.
Chi efogo, chi ndị Igbo efogo. So emesịa ihe mgbe anyị register APGA, ife the founding fathers so chọrọ register kwa bụ APGA anwa. So they tried to register that to United Progressive Grand Alliance. Ndị INEC jụ. Eweche wepụzie United, tinyezie All Progressives Grand Alliance. But the symbol, ọkụkọ, ife ọkụkọ anwa gosi bụ na chi ndị Igbo efogo. Maka ọ bụrụ na ị na-anya ichete mgbe afọ ọmụla APGA, it was a product of marginalization. I believe na anyị bụ ndị Igbo enwere ebe anyị so n'ihe a na-eme. I say na I need a platform I ga-eji wee na-articulate our voice. That was the major reason why APGA was registered and was formed and registered as a political party. And so, of course, the rest is history. And so, in a nutshell, Ekowo Onyembo, just a young man, who grew up in the streets, fortified by divine grace. Because I always tell people, my journey is a journey of grace.
Okay.
Yes, I can say my journey is just filled with grace, because I can tell you that I wasn't probably the smartest or the most intelligent or the most dutiful, but then God took us where we are, and for Him we owe everything in life.
Dalo, iso na fege. Partly. Street iso na fege.
First of all, I was born in Kaduna Street. And then at some point, at some point, we moved over to 6th Avenue. 6th Avenue, but just directly opposite Abigail. Abigail, along that 6th Avenue. Just
street.
I am here before study. So I went now that 6th Avenue. It was like the old Songhai Academy. The house, the very popular, owned by Chief GCMO UK, SAN, late. GCMO.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the days. Directly opposite the house of Chief IGBO.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So na Bishop Shanahan.
I'm a Bishop Shanahan. Very well.
I need St. Faith na primary school. Oh, St.
John's Anglican Church. Then I am, of course, Immaculate Heart. No, I'm figure. Because from day one till, in fact, I'm figure. University na University of Nigeria Enugu campus when I gained admission to study law. I'm figure.
Mgbe na-ekwu ego primary school, ana m eche na ị ga-akpọ Ugbo Orimili.
Ugbo Orimili school ndị Ajibọ ma ọ bụ Ugbo Orimili. Ugbo Orimili nọ n'ime housing estate. Ọ school ndị Ajibọ. Ikube school, ị ga na-ekwu Otumoye.
Otumoye.
Otumoye. Then my mother at some point was a teacher in Otumoye.
Okay.
Yes.
Agụ m ebe na-akpọ City.
Mama maybe na-ekwu.
City International Secondary School. CIS.
Banka bụ na ka private na.
City azụ ụlọ.
Daalụ
nne. CKC.
Yes.
CKC. Anyị nwa bụ una senior brother.
Okay.
BMJS. I want so no my junior brother no.
I try to make an argument but imana abona Kube. There is only one university on the Niger.
Okay.
And that is Christ the King College.
University or secondary school?
University on the Niger.
Oh really?
Yes.
Actually, the money here.
No, okay. University on the Niger. I'm a Mivenku. Christ the King College.
It's like CKC bụ Juebulu School bụ na ọbụna garo. One ewute na asị na game bụ na onye gacha CKC but one eko. What is it about that school?
Well, sadly, mgbe anyị gụrụ ọ dịchara otu anwa. But I'm happy. The good old days. Currently, under the Archbishop of Onitsha, CKC has become the pride of the nation, not just Igbo land, the nation. CKC is known for a lot of things, starting from the motto of the school, Bonitas Disciplina Scientia. Bonitas standing for goodness, Disciplina standing for discipline, then Scientia stands for knowledge. And so we believe that these three things make a man. When you talk about goodness, goodness has connotation with morality. Goodness. Because you may be a disciplined criminal. So it's not just about discipline. And it comes in that order. Because Ndi craft that motto in that order. There is something unique about the order it comes from.
Yes. Which one comes first?
There is a quote. I'm trying to remember who it's attributed to. One popular leader, a former American president, he said there are three things to look for in a man. I think knowledge, discipline, and integrity. Say if you don't find integrity, don't bother about the other two. And so, for us, goodness is number one. You must be a good person. Even if you're not that intelligent, even if you're not, but you must be a good person. That's goodness.
Yes.
Then discipline matters a lot in the life of anybody. Anybody that wants to go far in life, you need discipline and then knowledge. And so, if you check round you, from the time CKC was established in 1933 by late Archbishop Hiri, the then Archbishop of Onitsha. Inaga, the crop of students, because there was more or less a quest for that institution to groom young people, not just to become worthy members of the society, but not the ebullient leaders of tomorrow.
Yes.
And also, of course, like Archbishop Hiri was a white. Then some formators and at some point, CKC more or less became very popular under Father Tagbo. When Father Tagbo,
yes.
He was the most popular principal of CKC. I'm not saying that the other the other people that started the school, but Father Brawley, Father Flanagan, and so on and so forth. Yes, they all did their bit. But it was Father Tagbo, and under him, most of the men today who have one way or the other been in positions of leadership in Nigeria,
emanated.
He groomed, of course, our own brother, because I must mention Mr. Peter Obi. He was a student under Father Tagbo. The current SSG, Professor Solochukwu Lobelo. The former SSG, of course, Osei Obaze. Then the former governor of Anambra after Peter Obi, Chief Willie Obiano, the former governor of Rivers State, Dr. Peter Odili, and so there are so many of them to me. And it has, because of that, this crop of leaders, there is something unique about them. Something unique. And that's one thing that you can't take away from that institution called CKC. And so we are grateful. We are formed in CKC. When I came in, our principal then was Reverend Father Vincent Nwosu, who, of course, sadly he passed on about 2 years after we came in. But then there are other principals. And of course, Nzemeko Olisa, who was at some point the chairman of ASUBEB, who was the person that came in when we were leaving.
Yeah.
And so we owe much of the discipline, the upbringing, the training, and the knowledge we acquired from the dexterity, and resilience of not just the teachers, but the formators that we had then in CKC. And so that's the thing about, and the whole rivalry. I understand you went to Gbam. Fine, that's good. But I would have preferred you attended CKC.
But you just said that you people's glory just started recently. You just said that.
No, I said reenacted. No. I said,
you don't use the word reenacted.
I said no. I'm saying at some point, it was generally it was generally for, because at some point in Anya, when we make it, they the standard of discipline and education in most schools dropped in the 90s to early 2000s, starting from, of course,
yes.
Then for so many years. So
yes.
But after some point, the APGA government then under Peter Obi handed over schools back to the churches.
Yes.
And then the discipline CKC returned. And today, it's one of the best secondary schools. In any WAEC results, JAM results, and everything, they always come out tops in the country.
One of the best, I agree. One of the best. I actually agree. And this CKC produce, and for governors, just like you rightly mentioned, Peter Obi, Peter Odili, really, come go down. Come more down.
Zana Jojuan.
Mmadụ bụ ihe ga-eme kezi gọvanọ.
Mba, nke bụ eziokwu.
Ala akọzi ọnụ.
Abụrụ ọnụ ka a na-akọ. Eziokwu ka a na-ekwu na Gbam.
Akpara uru aka n'ọnụ.
Mana ọkụ eziokwu ka ikwu na a na-ekwu na Gbam.
Mana ịma na men nọcha.
Nke bụ eziokwu.
Ịma na DMJS bụ
mana ada maka ma DMJS bụkwa nnukwu school.
Yes.
Maybe after CKC.
At least you made us, at least ka I take you on record na na-ekwu okwu ndị CKC produce. Ka ịmakwa that CKC has produced an APGA national chairman.
Well,
in the person of
Bar.Sly
It's not for me
to blow my trumpet.
Also governors and everything. Yatago.
Anyway.
This one I figure.
Yes.
You know, just like you said, nothing good comes out of Nazareth, as people said. That was the
expectation.
Yes, that was what they see.
Yes.
How did growing up in Figge shape you to the man you became? Governor Soludo, I think he also had a stint there too, and everything. How was growing up in Figge? What did it do to you as a person?
Well, I'm Gaza Ojoga in two ways.
Go ahead,
you
please.
mentioned Governor Soludo.
Yes.
More or less, he didn't really grow up in Figge.
Okay.
On Abiarute.
Oh.
But then that was the glorious years of Figge. And inanya ihe na-emekete ifuna part of luck anyị nwe na Figge today. But na Soludo somehow witnessed the glorious years of Figge. When Figge was established, it was more or less established like a settlement for
reserved area,
more like just like you have GRA. So the colonial masters then, and then upon independence, much of the big men, Anyimwelu, na Igbo mob na Anambra bu na Figge Kavabili. So in Anya, for the way the streets were planned, Ibigo Figge.
Yes.
Behind every building, you have a drainage system.
Yes.
And the channels into the main drainage.
Yes.
With the gutter.
Yes.
If for the streets, the aligning and everything.
Yes.
Planned
Yes.
properly.
Yes.
And in those days, in the 60s and 70s, you will see a lot of trees. You see the green areas and everything.
Yes.
Over time, over time, megide. Ọ dịka ife niile ahụ eji nwayọọ wee na-aghasa. Wee na ịlụzie Figge ọ dịka be ndị ala. In fact, mgbe anyị na-eto, it had become a rowdy and a place noted for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah, that was the environment in which we grew up. But the fact remains that there were so many talented people that were in Figge. We had the finest of footballers. Of course, the guy who at some point was one of the goalkeepers, if not the #1 goalkeeper of Nigeria, Austin Ejide, he grew up in Figge. And so many other people. So we had a whole lot of talent. But the problem, it became at some point some kind of business environment. And being a business environment, in the morning, nne na nna ejebe afia, arapu ụmụaka n'ụlọ. Enwero any way ese check ma va na-ejekwe school. So as early as 6:30, 7 o'clock, akwadogo nwoke banye moto. Ojebe market. Nwaanyị ọ bụrụ head bridge ka ọ nọ, ojebe head bridge. Ụmụ ya anọlụ mgbe ụfọdụ fama nje akwụkwọ. Imama. So enwe ndị ga-abụ oruo mgbe a ga-eje akwụkwọ, parents ajebe akwụkwọ, ọrụ n'ụzọ divert ajebela onwe ebe a na-agba bọọlụ ma ojebe ebe. So we had so many notorious people, come up from Figge then. But then, for people like us, I can tell you that I was lucky. Lucky in the sense that I had two strict disciplinarians, because a na-azụ ụmụaka azụ. Enwerekwana onye pụtara ụwa dị isi ike ma ọ decide ya na ọ ga na-ezu ori. Ọ bụ na inyero, because if maybe na my parents etinyere the effort ha tinyelu in trying to discipline me and shape me and provide that sense of direction, who knows, I might have been one of the bandits.
As simple as that.
So, but my mother was a teacher and a very strict disciplinarian. My father was, I don't know who was worse between both of them. In fact, mine was at some point, I say, but when I stay now and look back, I can only be grateful. Because one thing I can tell you, and that's one thing I try to do, my parents were present in my life. Very much present in such a way na mgbe ọ na-eji ịkparịpụ ha eyie gị egwu natakwa. So ị nọrụzie mgbe ahụ anyị na-eto ana m envy ụmụaka ndị ọzọ, believing na ha nwa bụ ndị a nwere freedom bụ ndị nwe ihe a na-eme, because you won't cross the gate down. Those days, the moment I finish agbasa akwụkwọ, ọ bụ na icheta mgbe anyị nọ secondary school, ife eji agbasa bụ 2:30. Anakwa ha na-agbasa akwụkwọ, my father akpọgo my lesson teacher ka mara na m abịakwala. And abịa nke kazi njọ ebe nke mụ asị ka njọ bụ I was our man only son.
Oh.
So ebiazi na anya na for only sons for the privileges eva na-enwete ọ dịka nke nwa pụrụ iche.
Abụzụka son nwa.
Onye asi ebe akụrụ gị. Onye asi ebe for even the tiniest of infractions ị ga-eme. Ife mmadụ na-aba melụ m n'ụwa adịrọ m iji ọnụ ekwu. But at some point if na enwere option than to conform, to become a proper conformist. And then in school, I was among the best in class. Let me not say I was the best, but from primary to secondary. And so we had that gift. So when we had, option than to focus in your education, my parents were very, very much intentional about my education. That's why when they won't understand that whatever I am in life today, I owe it to them. They were present, they were intentional, and they sacrificed a lot to make sure that I had proper education. And I can say it was that training, that discipline, that was what shaped me. And being Catholics, they made us go through proper Catholic moral instructions. And so all these things, contributed in shaping the man Sly in such a way that I said that train a child
in the way
he should go, so that when he grows up, he will not depart from. That's just a classical example. So at some point, even when I now had freedom, by then I had gotten to the university. They weren't there with me, and I entered school at a very young age. I think I was 16 when I entered the university. So when I entered, university, I was no option again for me other than to continue on that path.
Some of these things some of us can relate to it. Na ajuro whether more Buddhist people mutaria at a point in their life. Akoroge hof. Most of us say, some of us even ask our mom, Nagba Ezeoku. Mom yogwa mutam.
Okay, ejurajo. And when the gods ejo the ajo. Ogo sinagwa no wage make a relationship.
Yes.
I dare not.
It's like some of this training any challenge. Kana bosketa child abuse in a way, you are a father now.
Yes.
What do you have to say about this? Kita akusia mutakiye na school. Parents eburok. Some of these things ane mecha kita. I mechala emba.
Yes.
That we relish now, that we are grateful for. Kita as not child abuse. Go ahead.
I'm not the best person to answer that question.
Right.
Eventually, my brother the best person. Not on the because my wife will tell you that he doesn't know whether I am existing in the right generation.
Yes.
Because he believes that I should have existed in the 1940 something.
Yes.
So I believe in the discipline of the old, even till date.
Patient.
And my kids. Okay, I'll use my first child as an example. Because I don't believe everything is about money. When I was a commissioner, I think she was in primary 6, about to enter the secondary school. I think I was paying 10,000 naira school fees per term. I was a commissioner. And it was the school that virtually most people in Oka, maybe Now, why did I do it? No. For me, I believe in the quality of learning, not the opulence, if I may use that word. There are schools I know, we see so many things. We see people trying to show off. And when over for the higher why you go when they are saying a motage school on abron kage and those things, the moment you see it, if we even the school, because it has become more of a business enterprise than a learning place, they don't focus on the children. They are just interested in the things that will make children be happy, so that the parents will bring more money.
Yes.
So, but for me, I'm very particular about discipline.
Yes.
Much more than learning.
Yes.
Because you can have a genius who is a deviant in the society. So I've never ever believed that my children will be part of the people who will be contributing to the menace in the society. Same thing when she entered secondary school. Incidentally, school logo is a Catholic school that I've always admired, even as a young person. The Holy Rosary College,
Amici.
No, Enugu.
Okay.
It was a very popular school, one of the best schools, secondary schools.
I think I should see them on Facebook.
Where young ladies are formed. So it was all those. I'm not saying no one may make the wrong. I'm just telling you that
yes.
I may not be the best person
to actually
answer that question. But some people may argue that may not be the best, but that's my style. But we met you. And I said, no, come to Ije, ndị nọ na skuul unu papa ha na-anya keke ka ha si anasị m na-enwe nnukwu bọs 608 a na-ebupụte si aja ịkwụ ụgwọ baa nke gị natara. At least
experience.
She has to experience the society.
Experience.
It's very important.
Go through the process.
I'm not going to by what I owe her and my other kids, proper education.
Yes.
I'm not bringing nothing more, nothing less. As simple as that. I remember a conversation I had with my father when on youth service. I had finished law school. That was a turning point in my life. Very crucial. Omoro, the impact that day make in my life.
Right.
So I'm on service. One weekend like this, I go Jidamaka. Where my father? I say Abiko. Na enwekweni ka ọra m na biko na can send the area believe in nanka no am going to just had finished law school jebe service asem gini ka m na-akọ na mamaka don ọrụ oyibo ka mbụ. I was serving in one law firm na Bauchi State. Because how much they weren't paid anything, just monthly. I think it was about 9,000 something then. So na want to win ebe na-eche mgbe m ga-send the ego to the house na ego. And in actual fact, the first thing he did was that, I said, I have attained the level of responsibility. So I was no longer waiting. And I knew, no, I have to fend for myself. So what he made me do, when the following Monday, something. And I never looked back from that time. So I started going to court looking for before, because if he had sent that money to me, probably I would have relaxed.
Be very comfortable.
Be very, very comfortable. So that was the first major push I had to really experience life as it is. So no, just Jeben office, Jesse, my conference I name na Saturdays. Jesse all on Saturday. Because he be a conference na the law firm. And when you case you get handle for the week. So it was like you just threw a child in an shark infested water to swim across. So Zobonwegi. I be don't buy Zobo wine. I'm not going to I can as well wrote that.
Yes, sir.
I'm mammy, you got them.
Yes, sir. I forget what is it about being Ngonye Nkuzi? For them, I say that Umundi Nkuzi end up being so wayward. For that, I say that is a training. I think no so
wayward.
Yes, just like Omo Pastor. That now due to the discipline.
Oh, I understand.
Now,
so when they experience freedom,
when they now see freedom,
they could a change.
Yes. What was your experience?
Well, for me, I didn't really have that experience. Makana, I don't know how to put it. But I'm just trying to remember the words I told you.
Okay.
But the point, Ebona, like you said, the major thing was freedom. That's where the problem is. Because over time, or they can say KG, at some point, of freedom, yes, some persons ended up, in the not too good environment and company. Because when you have that freedom, one of the things that matter in life will be the company you meet. It's very important. And that's why every day, you see, prayers for me, I see myself as a very prayerful person. And it is the grace that follows us. I saw my parents being very prayerful. And as much as possible, I try to impart the same lifestyle to my children. What is the role of prayers? When you let that child out in the world, the only thing you can do is to back up that child with prayers. That the effort, and so when you get into school and you are in the right company, for example, myself, when I entered University of Nigeria, the hostel, Ojuku Hall, that was the hostel I entered as a year one law student. My roommates were all medical students. And all of them were then, I think they were in their third year, where they second MB for them about medicine. Those guys were reading, if there are 24 hours in a day, they were reading up to 16 hours. Yeah. And so,
you have no option.
Hanapo. So go about also get on a room. So Hana Jezim Banwe Soluma, Bulukwa Konke, Bana officio Mbawa, maybe the physiology lecture or no na unique Mbawa. Hanapo, you will look Konke Ginaga. And so that really helped us. Probably nobody knows, if I had maybe the company of cultists, then maybe something else it could have turned out another way. So I didn't really experience that, and I can't really answer that kind of question to say why is it this way. You have provided an answer that because the discipline, the formative years now they intense. So when they see freedom, or they can be couple in a chain. But for people like what I said, prayer is very important. The Messiah and Kegi, you leave the rest to God.
Yeah. Unique for the equal unique. A lot of people are there also conversant with unique and everything. I've been to Enugu, I've been to unique campus too. We can just fund Amaro here in the Ndigbo unique, and then
unique is simply
how was the experience?
You have University of Nigeria and Soccer.
Yes,
that's the school everybody knows.
UNN.
But people don't know that there is a campus,
an offshoot,
that is the same school. But it's established in a different, just like you say that you have Anambra State University, we have Uli campus and Ebariam campus.
Oh, okay.
So Ebariam being the main school, and then Ulina being the campus. So for UNEC then, they're not there then, but then I remember we had about 4 faculties. We had the law faculty, we have the faculty of health sciences, we have the faculty of medicine. We had the faculty of business administration, that's management sciences, as you call it today, and then we had the faculty of environmental sciences. So I think it's 5 faculties. So
and those faculties are not still in Nsukka, right?
No, they are not in Nsukka. They're all in UNEC.
Okay.
So that's the difference. It's the university, because your certificate will be a University of Nigeria.
Just the way Unizik, I think they have something in Nnewi.
And then they have, I think, Agolo for pharmaceutical sciences.
Yeah, something
exactly.
Like that.
So it is it is the University of Nigeria. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can proudly call me a lion.
Yeah. Though I heard that the lion then is no more.
No.
The lions are no more roaring.
No, it is. It is still roaring. The problem is the standard somehow.
Right.
Anyway, the governor Nadeku, my leader, he will always tell you that Nigeria is the only country whose past seems to be more glorious than the present and probably the future. And it's not a good thing for a nation.
It's not a good
to have a glorious past. A nation should have a glorious future. That's just the challenge. But it's for us, young people, who, when we find ourselves in position of leadership to change the narrative, it is for us, you and I.
I agree. If I school as a 16-year-old,
yeah, absolutely.
Some of us are still in SS1 that time. From the experience, do you think it's a good one?
It's a story I always like to share. It started from me entering primary school at 4 years. I was in nursery
primary school at 4 years.
Yes.
4 years.
I was in nursery 2.
4.
But I was unusually big. Yes. So my mother said, my first birthday. Because I'm the first child of my parents.
Okay.
onye dinye ka egote akwa je egote akwa nwa 1 year. It was a long sleeve shirt. N'etiti aka ebe a ka ọ kwụsịrị. Ewegwe ya mba na akwa nwa 3 years ka o tosiri igo because I was unusually big at infancy. Eweje gote akwa nwa 3 years o wee fit him perfectly. So mgbe m nọ nursery 2, I just banyesịa nursery 2 maybe after first term, ndị klaasị m na nursery school na nta akara mgbe anwa na-amụ m amụ na-akpọ m papa ndị nursery. Mana ndị niile anwa na-akpọ m papa ndị nursery fancha niile tọlụ m. So ambatazie ịgbagono ka ụmụaka papa ndị nursery na-ebe akwa. So a na-akwado m school nju na mama nga ụmụaka ibe m na-amụ m amụ na-akpọ m papa ndị nursery. So my mother then was teaching the primary 1 class.
Okay.
So ọ sị na ọ kpọrọ m bịa ka ọ kpọba m na my class because all the same primary school onwe nursery section. Nju na-ebe akwa. So in order to pacify me, ọ kpọrọ m jebe na class ya. Just debe m also na ka o debe m ebe maybe for about 2 days. Ka o nwee nwayọ just solve all the problem at the school. But report all the teacher. I say she not noticed that even in at that primary 1 anwa bụ class ya nọ ya na ajụjụ ọbụla ọjụna na ọmụ na-aza the ajụjụ. And she said, okay, he can cope. And that's how I continued. And then that time she said I came second. The following time I came first. At that age, I didn't even remember these things. And so she said, okay, he can cope. That's how I continued. And it was very rare. But then when onye gama, because when you see my height and everything, if una ndị niile mụ na ba nọ na class, jicha 2-3 years to mụ na ha ncha niile era. Yes. Mano mezi omume, mano no.
Mano watakile. Dalo, you are still as big as you are still big now.
Yes,
if
absolutely.
they tell somebody your age, be like, are you sure?
I'm not going to say that.
Sly, a side of you that a lot of us may not know now. You're a lawyer.
Yes, I'm a lawyer.
You studied law and then you practice law.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about life as a lawyer in Nigeria.
Yes.
Ona adeka onye obunabo a lawyer and then a backup something on a before you become really big. If you are for lawyer but also lawyer, when backup plan A. Onye abro lawyer. If you can know na emeka real estate.
Okay.
Elemoto.
Imana nkebe eziokwu bụ na for me, there are so many things we see in the society. We think it is normal, but it's not normal. It's not supposed to be. Under the rules of professional conduct, if you are a practicing lawyer, I'm forgetting the rule number, whether it's rule number. I'm not really sure the exact rule, but a lawyer in active practice is not supposed to engage in any other business other than maybe farming. You are allowed
basic need,
just
basic,
to farm.
yes, to get food.
And
that
maybe
basic.
You can just maybe be a silent partner or a silent director in a company, but not to run the company. I don't know if you understand. Not just a share. We can acquire shares in a company. It's allowed. So it is wrong for a lawyer in active practice to engage in any other business. It's actually professional misconduct that can even lead to someone being derobed. But many people don't know. So as a lawyer, I concentrated. The only thing I did was practice. And it was torturous for me at the beginning. You man, boy, I say na if lawyer, na shoe na kwata no what no.
But
the truth, Buna, just like every other discipline, consistency, discipline, and hard work pays ultimately. And for someone like me, more or less, I always refer to my parents, my mother particularly. One of the things my mother hates most in life is entitlement. Because she and her siblings, because growing up, they were sent out as house helps to some of their relatives because their father at some point was blind, and then growing up it that you don't feel entitled to anything. And so we see the hand of God in anything. Whatever it is, if you have this, you'll be grateful to God and you manage it. So the first thing we learned is that management. And for me, it was more difficult for me as a young lawyer because the pressure came from my parents. Upon finishing school and service, came back. They say, oh, an only son, you have to get married. And I have this very close bond with my late dad that I always say this. I don't know how. I'm not the now, but I've never, ever, I can't really recall growing up as a young man from the time I entered university till my father passed on, if I can ever think of anything that probably made him regret having me as a child. And so I grew up trying to please him. So immediately he said, oh, you must get married. I said, no problem. So I think I got married at 26. Yeah. And so, got married to a very, of course, the most wonderful woman anybody can talk of, because she was very, very supportive and she understood. Why do I say it was difficult? Because when you see the glory, you won't see the pains. At the point I was asked to marry, I had nothing. In my house, my mother had nothing. And so I wedded living in my father's flat, not his house. It wasn't as
his rented flat.
His rented flat. I and my wife, we lived in one room. So just because I didn't want to tell him no, I just said, okay, this, because me, I was just seeing it as, okay, whatever will make this man happy, at least. Because I see my father not like my father, but more like my elder brother. He in turn didn't really, he equally got married at, I think he got married at 29 or 30 years. And so the age gap was just about 30. So I saw him more like an elder brother. So, I say, okay, fine. And that the responsibility came on time. Because, yes, immediately we got married. Just about a year, we had to, of course, find a place to live. Na Ndigbo Sonoki Bruna Bana Binono.
Of course.
And she ofu kitchen won't work. So then the children came along. And so in one of the time for any party, as a young man, you fend for yourself, you fend for your wife, you fend for your children, you must do everything, take care of the home and everything. So I can tell you, it was frustrating at the beginning. It was very, very frustrating. But God so kind. One of the earliest things I did, of course, the law firm I worked in, my boss is late OJ Nadi ACN. He helped a lot. Because part of the things, the advantage I had was because when you work in a big law firm,
yes,
it comes with its own advantages. One of the advantages, yes, you may not make money at the first instance, but you make contact because your boss ordinarily represents most of the influential clients. So when they see that you're dutiful, why, yes, they know they are paying the boss, but they can
tip you,
especially when you're diligent. And that was my first, because my first exposure in real practice after I came back was when we had the 2010 election that Peter Obi, of course, Professor Soludo was the candidate of PDP, Chris Ngige was the candidate of, I think, Action Congress. ACN. So we had the land, then we were in the tribunal then, defending the mandate of APGA and Peter Obi. So that was the first major experience, and then that was what probably the exposure. That was what made us more or less grounded in election and election-related cases. And then we followed that trajectory. So after about 4 years, seeing the contributions we've done, in the party, because while we are doing those cases, so while we are doing these cases, I didn't forget that my father, because in the firm we represented every political party, PDP, Action, depending on who
comes for representation.
I had that passion for APGA, so I will always go and do the APGA cases and leave the cases of other political parties. I was more interested. So seeing the number of cases I had done for APGA, Naturally, it came that in 2015, when we had the transition to the government of Chief Victor Oye, I was, invited, because it was more or less an invitation to come and become the state legal advisor of APGA. And so, of course, we continued. For the first time, they saw that, a lawyer, because most times there is this notion that lawyers in politics don't know anything in law.
They're not grounded.
They're not grounded. Lawyers in politics don't really know anything in law, because most lawyers who are grounded, you can't have time to go and play politics.
Yes.
Law is a very demanding profession.
Yes.
Because you go to court in the morning, the court starts by 9 a.m. As a young lawyer, you may do your matter by 2:30. You get back to the chambers to begin to prepare processes that you are filing or matters you're going to do the following day. So it's a very rigorous profession. And so most lawyers don't want to practice have lawyers that go to court. And so for them, it was something very novel.
Different.
Happily, somebody, a lawyer, and he was doing cases of the party. So they didn't need to pay lawyers outside to come and do the cases. So naturally, they welcomed me. And in 4 years, it was in record, in 4 years, I was promoted to the National Legal Advisor. Yeah.
You are among the legal that actually represented P2B.
Yes, I was in the team.
That means
not that I was one of the junior lawyers.
You worked with Onyechi Bazo?
No, I worked with OJ Nnadi SAN. But OJ Nnadi SAN late and Onyechi Bazo, they were all in the team together. Yes.
How is it that Sly, just like you said, all the kind glorious past. We have a lot of lawyers in the past that were actually celebrated. Gani Fayemi or something like that. Falana still here now. Oputa them. We don't have such breeds now, or do we have them? But they are not really loud.
And I can tell you, we have them.
Right?
We have them. Well, of course, the man you mentioned, Dr. Onyechi.
Yes. It's one.
If you ask me, I can say that he's the best in the country.
Abi?
Yeah. Because it's very hard to find an Igbo man being accepted in other parts of the country. He represents, as today, I can tell you that probably he represents more than maybe 13 to 15 governors. Yeah, so the man is that good. And so there are so many of them. I don't want to mention them. We have PIN equal to SAN. We have Ndigbo. Then in the Yoruba land, we have the current Attorney General of the Federation, one of the finest lawyers you can have, Lateef Fagbemi, who became a senior advocate exactly at 10 years at the bar. Yes. And so there are people, who have very sound lawyers, very, very sound lawyers.
Okay.
No doubt about it. Yes, no doubt. But like you said, we had, of course, just like we said, it seems the standard has fallen, is a fact. But even in that fallen standard, there are men in the profession, both in the legal profession, in the banking profession, in the academia, there are men who have made their mark. They still exist.
Yes.
Even though the system more or less tries not to be that favorable, but these men have still carved out a niche for themselves in their choosing profession in life. And they are still role models. Like me, I have a whole lot of role models. People I want to be like Onyechi, as you mentioned. At times I ask God, how can you be so partial? Can you give this man this?
A lot of Onyechi wengabase abalanze noncha. Dalo renne.
Anafu icholi igo ejukwala ese. Anafu icholi igo imekwele investigation. Biana Pine Leaf Estate and Properties. Anya de la na n'isokwu. Anya de la na n'eje court.
As onye know why okay, would you actually, with your experience,
yes,
do you actually subscribe for early marriage as a man? In a same okay, no one okay ko get cello mbo basi yike with your experience, frustrations, lessons and blessings.
It is a very difficult question. Very difficult question to answer. But I'll tell you one thing. Whether me nulu noge, me nulu netiti, me nulu old, your choice of partner is one of the greatest choice, if not the greatest choice you will ever make in life.
Choice of partner.
Yes. If God wants to make your life on earth hell, he will give you a wife.
You know, there.
If God wants to make your life on earth heaven, he will still give you a wife. Yes. And so whether it's
early, you will start it early. The blessing will come early, the hell will come early. So
because the stability I achieved was because of my wife, who for 1 second, I don't know how I got that lucky. I don't know how I can tell you. I don't know how I got that lucky. When you say, for 1 day, for 1 second, there was no pressure. Because even a book no pressure, stress. Pressure of whom? When your man, we have a cup of rice. Okay, how do we manage this cup of rice? Hey, no. How was your day? You know, those kind of things. And then even if you don't come back, because he knows you're out there trying to fend for the family. And then the words of encouragement, the prayers and everything. So that's why I said, when God wants to make your life on earth, he gives you a wife. When he wants to still make your life on earth, heaven, still gives you a wife. So the choice, that's the greatest choice you can make in life, is a choice of, it can derail your trajectory and it can further propel you to your destiny far, 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 far earlier, than expected.
Shout out to you, Mrs. Sylvester Ezeokenwa. You can hear from the horse's mouth. In a morphma. Sly, I know for people like you, young people like us, and then we hope.
Yeah.
You became the APGA National Chairman, I think before you got to 40.
Absolutely.
2023.
Just like a baloki,
I watch. It is years on. I
was also this year. I think was also this year. Can make a birthday. Apart from
even a 40th. Yeah.
Let me tell you the reason. I'm one of those that believe that we are born at the wrong time. Ndamuna January. Or Christmas. Christmas. So for me, my birthday is just most time I don't make a dream like my birthday. Even when I became national chairman, I tried to avoid those things. So, but this year,
you just felt like
so many things happened. I lost my father last year, my best friend, and I always say that
I remember his burial.
The person I love most in the world was my father. The person, because I don't think I will be. And I always say this. I think I'm reaping the fruits of his labor. Yeah. I'm thinking because he put in so much work in APGA without reward. That's why till tomorrow. The day I had my Thanksgiving on the 4th of May, because we had a very tortuous battle at the Supreme Court.
I remember.
That ended on the 27th of November when the Supreme Court reaffirmed me as the National Chairman of APGA.
I remember that.
And so on the 4th of May, I had my Thanksgiving. And in thanking the national leader of APGA, Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo, CFR, I broke down in tears because for people, for me, I was just saying, I'm not supposed to be here. Yes, I know I've done quite a lot for APGA, especially the cases and then representing the party, going on interviews to defend the party and everything. But the man who did the difficult work was my dad, really without any reward. Much. My father, when P2B was a candidate, or in fact, before he became candidate, he was the most outspoken, held on the South local government then, with little or nothing. When eventually Peter was rigged out in 2003, was one of those that went to the tribunal. At that point, there were overtures by the party in government, then Dr. Chris Ngige, trying to get him not to back and na kwago junni. Because when he hear mirror
to buy him
that
over,
a case succeeds, credible witnesses who are willing to come and lead evidence. in court. And so Onitsha South was one of the local government that was massively rigged. So Onyanwa was the collation agent and needed to come and tender the results of Onitsha South and give evidence how the election was rigged. He was a bus driver, didn't probably have up to 10,000 in his account, but there was a promise of 500,000 naira. It was made in my presence. And for him to choose any board of his choice, he will be made the chairman of the board. He said no. That for him, they were part of those then. That's when you say now confirmation that APGA was about passion. And I would really love to see APGA transform into that political party whose members are passionate about their membership. So it wasn't driven by any maybe material gains. It was driven by passion that, look, we want to make a difference. We want to have
ideology.
A political It was driven by ideology. Thank you. I have to really thank you for using that word. It was driven by the ideology of Onyayana one year. And so it was unthinkable, it was unimaginable that I was going to collect money and sell the mandate. So they likened it to the saboteurs during the war. That was how my father said, that it was just like an Igbo man who sold out to the Nigerians during the Nigerian Civil War.
The Sabo.
Yeah, so that was how he likened it. And at the end of the day, the government that they fought for came in, didn't really do much for them.
Were they even aware of their sacrifices?
They
were, right?
I don't want to. It's an argument. It's an issue.
You don't want to really delve into,
because it wasn't seem as if I'm attacking the person who was the governor at that time.
Yes.
But the fact remains that much of his colleagues then didn't really gain anything for their sacrifice for the party at that time. Of course, appointment in this house. And these are part of the ills the current governor of Anambra State has corrected, such a way that when he took over office, look at his cabinet, you see former party chairman, former state executive, former national officer, former House of Assembly member, people who have been in the system, striving, who worked tirelessly to ensure that the election was won by the party. And so, so for me, like I said, my endless appreciation, my timeless gratitude will always go to the governor, because he was like, I remember, I think what's the name of that man in the Bible? I think it was Simeon, when Christ was brought to the temple for presentation, and he said, your servant can now go in peace. My eyes have seen the salvation. And so it was as if that was what happened, because the moment I became the national chairman, it was like the apex of his fulfillment, that at the end of the day, all his strives, all his passion, all his sacrifice for the party, in my lifetime, my son became the number one officer of this party.
Yes. Dalorene. So it's more like you're actually reaping the harvest of your dad.
Absolutely.
Just like, I was struggling when my mom was alive. So when my mom died, and then Oruro 1 year, 2 year, one also.
Yes.
For that son, my mother did 2 almost on an So that means such a narrative can actually pass us.
But his own was that he was alive. That's
yes.
He just passed on last year.
He witnessed it.
So
he witnessed it.
Came live, even though he was an amputee. He lost one of his legs due to the complications of diabetes.
Yes.
But he came live during the national convention where I was elected as a national chairman. And actually witnessed, at least was with me for about 2 years.
Hallelujah.
National chairman.
Hallelujah. Hopefully, yeah.
Absolutely.
Hopefully,
yes.
Back to my question. You rose to the top as a very young man, giving us the hope that young men actually can do this. Can do the fate of the young person in this country. Some of us are not interested in what would actually take us to the top. Some of us don't take risks. Just the way Soludo is actually fighting to actually bring back that Akajaja.
Absolutely.
Our young people now don't believe that they can become Sly Ezeokenwa tomorrow. Can you young people, or do you think that your own, just like you say, is just grace?
No. I'll tell you one truth. The problem is multifaceted. It is a product of so many reasons. For me, it is for the society. The society must strive to address the societal challenges. And that's why Ndi Anambra must be eternally grateful to our governor for taking the bull by the horn. You know, when he started this fight, people called him all manner of names. Some said he was petty. I was one of those that stood strongly in support of him because I can tell you that I'm a Soludo apostle. No doubt about it. I'm a young person who feels, growing up, one of my mentors in life, even from afar, even though I never really met him, was Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo. Because I was, I was a child who was very interested in reading, especially following current affairs, politics and everything. I was actively into, maybe because my father was a politician. So even at a young age, I was so interested in, if you see me discuss politics, you will be like, who is this old man? But I was I'm telling you, when I was in secondary school.
You're interested?
Yes, very much interested in politics. And so Soludo was one of those that we saw as the star boy of the Obasanjo administration. No doubt about it. Now, because he is our mentor, somehow I was one of those that read the People's Manifesto, the Soludo Solution, the manifesto with which he ran an election in 2021. If you look at that manifesto critically, you will see that there is a conscious effort to implement everything contained in that manifesto. One of them is what we'll call, because I think they say about the 5 pillars: security, law and order, economic transformation, human capital agenda, governance, and value system. Because people just think, maybe Soludo just woke up and started chasing
native doctors or someone.
No. It is the 4th pillar of this administration: governance and value system. Governance simply means that the government of the day must be very firm about the implementation of the rule of law. And the rule of law, for us lawyers, as expounded in the 18th century, simply means that the law is the ultimate controller of human conduct. And so everybody must be equal before the law. So you will see the intentionality. It's not that you see, this man is a billionaire, so there should be separate consideration for him because he's a billionaire. And then this man is a keke driver. There should be separate consideration for him because he's a keke driver. No. So when you talk about governance under Soludo's 4th pillar and values, you see governance that tries as much as possible to elevate and build strong institutions that takes care of everybody. So everybody becomes equal before the law. Then the value system. Every nation in the world is a reflection of its timeless values. A nation without values, show me a nation without value, I can tell you that a nation that is in catastrophe. And that was the problem. So it became a problem for young people, not just in Anambra but in Nigeria. But we are now solving the problem. It is that value system that made the young man see that, I see this man driving a Bentley. I see this man throwing cash up and down. I see this man showing what I call obscene display of wealth. And he just wants to be like this man. And simple. He just wants to be like this man. He doesn't care. That's why if you go in advanced countries, you, as a popular person, the country tends to give you greater moral responsibility in shaping the society. So if Gbam, Yambaba, if you do anything, the way the system will treat you is not the same way they will treat a keke driver because of the influence you command. That's why when you see these footballers and you hear sexual allegations against them, the way they treat them like murderers, because by virtue of their career, their profession, they tend to exert so much influence on so many people. That's why you see, for example, when we had Didier Drogba,
Yes.
as a footballer, you see so many children, if they go to buy jersey, they buy jersey with Didier Drogba's name. If they want to walk, they walk like Didier Drogba.
Yes.
They want to make, because he has become unknowingly, unwittingly, a major influence on those kids.
Yes.
And so, here, that value system simply means that you must reconnect to those timeless and ageless values that Ndigbo and Nigerians are known for, the values of enterprise, the values of hard work, the values of disciplines, the values of moral, how do I put it? Morality. Let me just use morality to just summarize all of it. And so it was discovered because there is a connection. It's like a vicious cycle. There is a connection that there is a man who is there promising that if I do so and so dangerous charm for you, you can actually go and kidnap someone and you will not be captured. And so he emboldens that criminal. He says, okay, what am I doing? Because part of the problem we saw, why the insecurity issues festered in the Southeast, was that there were so many young people who were into genuine trade, eking out a living, and felt, in a month, I'm a vulcanizer, for example. I struggle to make maybe 50,000 naira in a month. Now, a big man comes in. I just take my phone and place a call to those guys in the forest. I say, this man is back. Just for making that call.
Informant.
Just for making that call, they may pay you as much as 3 million.
Clean.
How do you think that man will go back to that vulcanizing work? That's the problem.
Just for call.
Just for call. And the question is, what? Because if you want to catch criminals, the first thing, if you want to address crime, you go to the root of the crime. Ndigbo se na achọba isi ọchụ eje n'ụzụ. Inu Igbo achọba isi ọchụ eje n'ụzụ, because na egburu mmadụ abụrụ ya bụ ọchụ abụgodi kodo onye kpụrụ ụzụ, kodo onye kpụrụ igwe eji wee gbu mmadụ. You don't just address the criminal. You must address the source of the weapon. So the governor felt that, we have these dangerous native doctors who actually give these guys this confidence that they can actually go and perpetuate this criminality and go scot-free. And if you've noticed, there is now the connection. People are now understanding there is a connection between the clamp down of these dangerous native doctors and the drastic reduction in crime. And you asked a question about what can we do, young people. The fact remains that the government of the day, I can tell you equally, had part of the blame. Previous past government. Because what do you expect? Someone goes to school, finishes schools, goes to university, comes out, he doesn't have any meaningful thing to do.
Nothing to engage in.
Yeah. That's why today we have the 1U2 skill. And we have all the vocational skill acquisition centers and other vocational programs that the present administration of Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo has instituted in Anambra and has meaningfully engaged our youth. Even the federal government has equally done a lot in terms of the review of our curricula. And they've now introduced vocational studies in such a way that because those days, how many persons in the 70s, how many persons attend the university? Secondary school, we used to call it class 5 then. If you go to secondary school, you should be able to acquire enough skills to take care of yourself for life. Yeah.
Just like you say, it's actually the root of the cause. For me, I think we need to also revisit our educational system.
Of course, that's what I'm saying. The federal government has done that.
Because now education is meant to push out people that could come to employ.
Not just people that are waiting to be employed. We call them
So
Because
recently, you just see people coming out to be employed.
To be you must be you must be employable in terms of skills.
Yes.
Because the question is, what life survival skills
Do you possess?
you have? Today, go to your community. The best POP makers are from Togo. The best stylers may be from another country. The best builders maybe. And now, so young people, they feel those things as menial job. There is dignity in labor. That's how we were brought up. There should be dignity. Nobody should be ashamed of a lawful means of eking out a living. That's why the Bible said there is dignity in labor. Even if you're a vulcanizer, even if you're a bricklayer, even if you're a tomato, there should be dignity in labor. That's the truth. And so when the government creates that society where everybody thrives, irrespective of what you do, you see people go back to doing lawful or legal stuffs and occupations to eke out a living. So, to answer your question, one, society or the government has a role to play. When I mean government, I mean both state, federal, and local government. In terms of, one of the things we identified now is the curricular review. So that we'll have vocational studies like the federal government has done now, that people in secondary school can acquire skills. Today, POP, making this one, catering and all whatnot are part of the secondary school curricula. Such that even if you finish secondary school, you can actually engage in any meaningful thing and make out a living. The second one is what the government has done, the government of Anambra State, in removing certain enablers that push people to crime. Like we talked about the whole native doctor thing and all whatnot. That one is there. And there are so many of them. Even I really want to see a time. I may be crucified for making this statement or making this demand, but there should be one of the things I think the society should do. I keep saying it. There is that law under the CBN law about illegal mutilation of the naira and everything. I think there should be something about this whole trend about obscene display of wealth and all whatnot. The governor will always say it. I've never seen someone who strives to make money that throws his money in the air. Nobody does that. Nobody. But some people will tell you, you don't tell a man how to spend his money. No. Because of the society, you must. Because if you allow it, you tend to set the wrong example. It may be, in fairness, because part of the problem is, today, most governments, someone will tell you that there is something wrong with the society where the richest people are people in government. That's another problem. That's another problem. One of the greatest problems of this country is the fact that public office holders have become so manifestly corrupt. So manifestly corrupt. Today, everybody is looking to get into government. Yeah. That's why we equally thank, most people will tell you, Professor Soludo, that he's stingy. It's not about being stingy. It's about telling our people, like the governor will always say, he says, engagement in public service should be the highest form of charity. As National Chairman, I've made that call persistently. That one thing I want to see in Nigeria is where there is a drastic reduction in the perks of public service. If you go to advanced countries, the other day when, I think I'm trying to remember the Prime Minister, that the day he left office, he just carried his box, put on the back of his bicycle and rode home. That was the number one citizen in the UK. Bicycle and rode home. Nobody cares who you are. You are Bill Gates, you come, you line. If you want to buy something, you are in a queue. But today, it is not the situation in Nigeria. And I want to see a way. Yes, the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu have professed to probably reduce certain perks of office, but I think what they've done is still a far cry from what I am demanding. There should be a manifest drastic reduction in the cost of governance. so that you can free up so many funds. You look at the budget of the National Assembly, it's mind-blowing. Public officials all living in opulence. Meanwhile, you're supposed to be doing public service. What's the meaning of the word public service? It's service. Yeah. It should be service. It should be about service. Shouldn't be a money spinning or money making venture. And so all these are part of the problem. And then, of course, the issue of endemic corruption in Nigeria. Because that corruption problem is still there. It is still there. And it still gives up the wrong vibes to young people. And so if you look at, there are so many wrong examples in the society. Sadly, our young people tend to follow these examples. Today, they see you do so many things. You now become probably the deviant. Meanwhile, it should be the norm. They see you as a national chairman, you're walking on the way. Is this man okay?
Where are your escorts and your sirens?
Yeah. You drive yourself. If I get into Abuja, I drive myself. I said, no, I'm a young person. How can I be behaving like, yes, I'm not saying that I don't have a driver, of course, because the demands of the work. But the fact is that I should be able, and most times in Abuja, I can walk into a restaurant and sit down and eat. I just want to remain that person that I think, and because I am conscious, I know, even if I'm not influencing 1,000 persons, I may be influencing 1 or 2 persons, and that's enough for me. And if individually we take it upon ourselves that, we are going to live a disciplined and mannered life in such a way that even if you mentor 1 person, is enough. If 1 million people mentor one person, you times it, and you know the number of persons that will actually turn out being mentored. Yes.
You mentioned the obscene display of wealth, and then I remember social media enablers, because they actually enabled. Somebody said something. Let me put it to you. Let me put you on the spotlight. 2021, something happened in Anambra, a burial at Oba. Our brother Obina Iyebu Obi Kubana buried the mom, and then you saw what happened. 46 cows. People that were every baller wanted to be in Oba. People went over to pick money, and someone told me that something died in Anambra that day. Yeah. And another thing.
I agree with you.
Something else grew without us knowing. And then now you hear morning water. Do you think some of these things are part of the problem?
Absolutely.
And how do we actually regulate such?
No. You see, they will have examples already.
Right?
We have examples. That's why anybody who is interested in the growth and advancement of our society, we must all be grateful to our governor. What he has done. Remember I told you, when certain crusade was started, people called the governor all manner of names. He said, is this why we elected you? Without knowing that the society is dysfunctional is because of those things you call little. Those things you neglect are the cause of the dysfunctionality in the society. You talked about the burial. Are you aware that before now we had a burial law that nobody cared to implement? And the governor came in and insisted on the implementation. It wasn't as if the governor was concerned with the dead. The governor was concerned with
the living,
the obscenity that we see today, or before now. Burials became an ostentatious display of wealth without us knowing the damage we are doing to the society. You see, I want to give my parents a befitting burial. In some cases, you will see a parent do everything, train the child, send the child to school, most times sell very treasured assets, property, jewelries, clothes and everything to ensure that the child goes to school. Probably the guy goes to school, gets a job in Lagos. That child may stay up to 4 or 5 years without even seeing the parent. You see some of these, our elderly people. Today, the church is stepping in to take over the functions of most kids. When I mean by kids, I mean adults who are children of some of the old people. The Catholic Diocese of Awka is building an old people's home. The Catholic Diocese of Nnewi is building an old people's home. The Catholic Diocese of Ekulobia is building an old people's home. Because we have elderly people in society who have been left to wallow in abject poverty. Some of them, their kids, are outside the country doing really well. Yeah. Now, when the child dies,
when the father dies,
when the parent dies, you see them.
They'll come to show that.
We have come to show that. You see them slaughter 20 cows. The fact remains that there are some of these people who, even though they display this wealth, they still really did take care of their parents. No doubt about it. We still have that. But the greater percentage are people who, just see them, and we've seen, that's why I must, and in all sincerity, I must appreciate people like you. Because I remember there's this guy called, he's equally a content creator. He does his own content in Igbo. The one that says Okoto. I'm trying to remember his name. Ogowa. He has done a content where someone, as comical as it is, he passes life lessons. Yes. That's why I said that, the commendation. Because for some of you guys that have decided to more or less fish out some of the dysfunctionalities or vices in the society and use your platform to educate the people. You don't know what you're doing for the society. So that particular content, one of his friends called him to tell him that he has added him to his committee of friends. And he was asking him, did you do a committee of friends? Or is it not this your mother that I know that was wearing one clothes for 1 week? Why did you not add me into a committee of friends when she was alive? You are now adding me to committee of friends for her burial. You want to show the world, because the guy was saying, I'm going to use a gold casket, I'm going to do this, So today, in a bid to address the problem, the burial law was passed under the previous administration, but the governor has been very intentional about its implementation. Such a way that you don't pressurize, because at some point you see people, even people that don't have, the pressure of the society has become that you now look as if, you are the odd person if you don't do this. That's the kind of slangs you hear. Ojezie olana ka o wee nie onye nwụrụ anwụ. Ụfọdụ ga-eje bili ego. So when you take a loan, it should be to be invested in what we call something bankable, something that has the capacity to repay the loan. So onye bili ego wee jekwa ozu, kedu ka esi wee kwụghachi ego bitelu? Ifro na nsogbu dị. And so we love the government in Anambra State because of the fact that it systematically and intentionally addresses some of the ills of the society for future generation. In Anambra, everywhere is calm. Ụmụaka na-agụ akwụkwọ. It's moral education batakwa. Anyị malụ na enwere ife eji mala anyị. Anyị bụ ndị Igbo. Ịghọta. Onye a na-enene na-ara ekpo ntụ. Onye a na-enene. Anyị bụ ndị Igbo. Enwere ife eji mala anyị. And the earlier we go back to some of these things ị na-afụ ma party niile a na-eme, enwe ndị eji ọwa mbe mala ejiri mara anyị. Ọ bụrụ ihe eji mala anyị. Anyị dị ike. We work very well, and we uphold the highest moral standard. And the governor equally made it known. Na ada achụkwa na-enwe ndị omenala. Na-enwe ife jimal ndị omenala. Ọ bụrụ na demonstrate ọ sị gị na ọgbapụ akpụ ụkwụ ya na-abụ wụkwasị ụkwụ na
ajani.
That is pure ọbanero n'ụlọ ụka. Ọ na-eme omenala kwụrụ n'eziokwu. Asị gị na ịbụrụ ọzọ na ịsa gị ile. When you come out, you say the truth. Not only about second or boss or no melon, meanwhile, okay, we don't know to sigidasi till the end of the discussion.
Yes.
Oh, you have a veggie malani. And the earlier we go back to our root, our root abụrụkwa nke oke ite no our root eji malụ ife eji malụ ndị Igbo ndị na onye a na-ememe aha Igbo ntụ that is the only time we discover our place of relevance in the society.
Daalụ Soludo na-alụ ụzọ na-alụ mmadụ ọ na-alụ ụzọ ọ na-alụ mmadụ maka na mmadụ
absolutely
ihe ga-agba na
eziokwu
daalụ nne Sly aga na politics na asị ka mkpocha gị as a person a lot of why Gbam is different is that we actually profile our people in a good way. Absolutely. So that people will know who is sitting. Ọ bụrụ onye bi ozugbo ejobia ife oji bi at least ka amalụ background onye na-eme ife ọ ga-abụ ife iwe kwuo maka ife okwu ilote oke nakwa ihe ama oji kwuo
mana eziokwu.
Ka about politics, let's start on a very hot note. You were the legal advisor to APGA 2018. Sly, why touch ife men na Imo State na APGA 2018? The whole Victoria was the national chairman. The whole resign and refund. There is one. A lot of people have said that you were instrumental to the duping of a lot of candidates. Anacha candidates ego, and then Ararume became the sole candidate without a primary election.
Yes.
What role did you play in that thing, and what actually took place? Go ahead.
Well, it will be difficult for me to say what actually happened, because to a reasonable extent, I played a very limited role. Yes. 2018, I wasn't the national.
Okay.
I was still remember I told you my trajectory from 2015 to 2019.
Yes.
I was the state legal advisor. I became the national legal advisor in 2019. And so if you calculate it, you will see that in 2018, I was still the state legal advisor.
Okay.
Now, in that period, during that period in question, I performed a very critical role. I was the chairman of the screening committee for House of Assembly aspirants. That was the only role I played.
House of Assembly?
Yes, in Anambra State alone. I remember I screened about 180-something or 190-something aspirants, and we disqualified 40-something from record. Most of them were disqualified because they didn't have waiver. And I can tell you, from that day till date, nobody has come out to say, oh, I gave Sly this, or Sly demanded this from me. You will never hear that, ever. Now, in fairness, it will be uncharitable of me to really say, oh, this is what happened, or this. Like I told you, I wasn't in the national, I was in the state. But I came to work with Dr. Victor Ikoye subsequently, when I came to the National Working Committee in 2019. And personally, he's been able to equally tell his own side of the story, even though most people may not believe him. But I have my reasons to say, yes, I believe him. As national chairman today, there's what we call vicarious liability. I think that was the major problem for him. Because when, more or less, he said, an agent, when you send an agent to do something, the liability falls with the principal. I don't know if you understand. If I'm the national chairman and I appoint Mr. XYZ to go to this place and do something, if that person deviates in the course of doing your assignment, the ultimate liability and responsibility will come back to the principal that actually sent out. Because nobody saw, like I said, I'm not holding this thing. He will be in the best position, and I really pray that there will be a day that he will come probably on this platform and tell his own side of the story. But when you tell your own side of the story, people will hear you. Whether they believe you or not is a different thing. The most important thing is that your story is out there. And as a leader, he told me personally that what he did was to take responsibility and not to begin to apportion blames. Because when you send out people to do something and they don't do it, you can say, oh, it's not me, I said, you sent those people. And to that extent, he came out and took responsibility and said, for whatever that was not done properly, I take full responsibility. And that is the mark of a man. I commended him for that. I've had the chance or the opportunity as national chairman to visit Imo State, because that was where the allegations were quite rife about the extortion, people who,
Yes.
at the end of the day,
A lot of aggrieved.
The painful part of it was that even at the end of the day, the primaries was botched, because we had about 2018 was our glorious year.
It was.
And yes, it was our glorious, and I still feel so sad. If not for anything, I have a relationship with that state. My wife is from Imo. Yes. So I have a relationship with that state. And you know,
Ogo.
2011, Rochas Okorocha was elected on the platform of APGA.
Yes, he was.
I think 2 years down the line, when the whole APC stuff, the whole merger was heating up, he abandoned the party, joined the APC. And so in 2018, when he had finished almost his 8 years in office, APGA became the beautiful bride again, because we said, oh, this man took away our mandate and entered another political. So people remember that APGA was a party. And I can tell you, till date, we've not been able to recover from the consequences of that haste, if I may use that word, that was perpetrated in Imo. I have knelt down before some stakeholders and offered, because I don't think anybody has actually come out from the party to go to that state and offer apologies on behalf of the party for whatever happened. So I did that. I think either it was in 2024.
Yes.
I convened the stakeholders meeting of APGA in Imo. Of course, comprising both the local government party chairman, the state working committee, and some, stakeholders.
Yes.
And I offered, because I won't say that there's allegations. We had so many cases in court then. Some of them took us to court. Of course, as one of the lawyers of the party, we represented the party in some of these cases. So we saw the allegations firsthand. Some of these cases, of course, 80 to 90 something percent of them did not succeed. But from the pleadings, you will see that really something went wrong. Something went wrong. And even sitting on this platform, still continue to apologize that the APGA we have today, under our watch, under our administration, we've shown it in so many primaries. We just concluded the Anambra State local government primaries. APGA is now synonymous with transparency when it comes to primaries. Such a way that we believe that our job is to give every Nigerian the window of opportunity to strive to get into public office. So it mustn't really be about how much you have to offer. It's about what do you have to offer. That's what is very vital and very important for us, so that we can fish out Nigerians who are very passionate about leadership and get them into positions of leadership to know how we can turn our country around.
Dalo, I was about to ask you this, man, Ikwugie, that it drastically affected APGA in Imo State. What really happened?
We're just trying to rebuild the party, and we've been trying to do that, always trying to rebuild the party. Today, our fortunes have really changed. People are now getting into our platform. At least they are seeing that there is something. And then with the good governance that the present APGA government in Anambra State has been able to showcase. Because I can tell you, if you look at the retinue of awards, the litany of awards that the governor has received, you see that the entire country is taking note about what is happening in Anambra State. And whether you like it or not, it's about APGA. Like I always say, the greatest asset of any political party is the performance of its public office holders. Yeah, if our governor is doing well, people will want to come into APGA. If our government is not doing well, people will not want to associate with APGA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dalo, being somebody that is in this position now, for the purpose of closure,
yes,
a lot of people that are actually really aggrieved, you have apologized on this platform. For that closure, did they agree? What do you think really happened wrongly? Can he feel You are now here now.
Yes.
You were somehow private to what really happened. Can you feel wrong that you wouldn't want to repeat?
That's what I'm saying. Maybe you didn't really listen well. I said there were so many allegations and counter allegations.
Allegations.
Some of these allegations, for me, when you see them, maybe, one thing is to have an allegation, another one is to have it established. There were allegations. One, that some persons who we sent, when I say we, I mean the party, then, in an election, you will have screening, you will have ward congresses, and you will have primaries. The first one is when the party advertises for primaries and calling suitably qualified Nigerians to come and probably indicate interest to run for public office. You first of all go through primary election, because the constitution made it that you must be sponsored by a political party for you to be able to contest an election. And so, after people purchase forms, normally, because the people who more or less were defrauded, they must own up to their own responsibility. Why do I say they must own up to their own responsibility or the contributory factor or role they played? If you say that someone receives bribe, someone actually offered bribe, it takes two to tango. So if you allege that this person took bribe, then someone actually offered that bribe. And so in Imo, the allegation was that there were promises to give people ticket.
Promises?
Yes. To give people ticket.
Promises from the national...
No, well, that's what I'm saying. I said the national setup committees. That's why, I was telling you, you have the screening committee, you have the World Congress committee. The screening committee screens all the aspirants and determines those who are qualified to run. If you are not cleared, you cannot participate in the primaries. And so, for screening, some person claimed that they were extorted money for them to be cleared. Which ordinarily, the party does not demand any amount of money ordinarily.
To be cleared?
To be cleared. You're not supposed to pay a dime. The only thing an aspirant is supposed to pay is the money for purchase of expression of interest
form
and nomination form. Simpliciter. Screening is free. So the moment people begin to demand money from you, because it's part of corruption. So if I set up, if for example, Mr. XYZ is the chairman of the screening committee, and because of that position of authority, he calls you to say, if you don't give me this, I'm going to disqualify you. If you don't give him that money, he can actually carry out his threat. And so some persons, being desirous to run, and out of fear, will go and pay. Remember, this was not why the party sent the person on that assignment. So the person is actually on his own evil agenda. You pass the stage of screening. The next one is World Congresses. At the World Congresses, delegates that will now go and vote to nominate the candidate are selected. Now, in some cases, you see some people who are in the World Congress Committee begin to call up aspirants to demand money from them so that they will fix their delegates. Because it is the persons that they return as delegates. It is those people that will now be chosen by the party as the duly elected delegates that will go and vote during the primaries. And so the moment you have a good number of delegates, is as good as you've won the primaries. Again, so these are part of, I can tell you this is what obtains in most political parties. It's a fact. That's why for us in APGA, today, the 2026 Electoral Act that the National Assembly has just enacted and signed into law by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, APGA welcomes the portion that talks about direct primaries. Because some of these shenanigans will no longer apply. Direct primaries means that all the members of the party are entitled to vote during the primaries.
All. Registered members.
Registered members. Financially up-to-date members. So it's no longer a case where
some
members go to elect few persons to go and exercise their franchise on their behalf. No, now, if you are a member of the party, you come out to the ward designated center, you queue, and you vote.
just like normal election.
Exactly, just like normal election.
Every election victory begins with a good media projection and visibility. For this reason, Gbam Interview has created this campaign space for all our political candidates to reach out to Ndigbo and convincingly tell them why their vote should be in your favor. Hurry now, contact the numbers on your screen today. Let's take you a step closer to your victory.
And so, there are so many things in this new electoral act that will commend both leadership of the National Assembly and the president for introducing. Today, you can no longer participate in primaries A. If you lose, you now run to another party.
Oh, just
Yes.
like somebody did the last time.
So, because now, when you vie in this party and you don't succeed, you should actually support the person who won the primary.
that
If
came
you
up.
run to this, it means your membership of that political party was just driven by your selfish agenda, not driven by partisan consideration, not having any ideological basis. So membership of political parties ought to be ideologically driven. If you belong to APGA, it should be because you believe in the ideology of APGA. Today in Nigeria, you see someone, he's a member of PDP in the morning. In the evening, you saw what happened on the floor of the Senate. And we commended the Senate leadership when Abaribe tried to defect. The Senate president and some of the Senate leader and other senators said no. The moment you defect, we declare your seat vacant in line with the Constitution of Nigeria. Yeah. And so we want a country where people obey the law, where the rule of law applies. It's very important and very critical for our survival as a nation.
Because there's a lot of political recklessness.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I agree. Are you saying for a fact that Ifeanyi Ararume, as a candidate of Imo State gubernatorial election, was produced on the basis of highest bidder and not credibility?
I don't know how he emerged. I can tell you.
As simple as that.
I don't know how. I told I wasn't in Imo. I never went to Imo in that 2019. I never went to Imo, so I can't say what I don't know.
I wish you guys luck when it comes to Imo State.
Absolutely,
Because
I know.
Because we all remembered what APGA did for Rochas. Strongly. Ndimo spoke with one voice.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden there was a...
We will get to that. One day we will go to them and preach to them that we can replicate, because everything depends on the character of the candidates that you have. It's very important. The character of the candidate that you... Today, there are so many persons who have vindicated interest. Oh, they want to vie for Imo governorship. They are looking for someone with character.
The character can carry
Very important.
the weight of the ticket.
Because we need someone that if he goes there, he implements the ideology of APGA in the interest of Ndimo.
Not just a vehicle to get
Absolutely.
there,
Not just a vehicle.
to get to power.
Absolutely.
And then before you know it, they defect.
That's the problem.
Then I watch our party. Politics, because Anime Take Care as events took place 2023.
Yeah.
Was Emeka Njoko a chairman of APGA National at a time?
No, we've gone past that stage. He was never. And the Supreme Court has confirmed that. It's simple. I don't want to, go into the whole history, the journey to bring in Kudu and all whatnot. The fact remains, some persons claim, let me even make this point, some persons claim that part of the reason why he started laying claim was as a result of what happened in 2019 in Imo. That claim has, yes, because he's from Imo State. And I know that then he was actively supporting one of the aspirants. Some people claim that the leadership crisis we had then was orchestrated, artificially created as a means of getting back at the leadership of the party for what happened in Imo. Like I said, all these things are allegations. I wasn't in Imo. I'm not a member of Imo chapter of the party. I wasn't in Imo during that period. I don't know anything that happened. That's the simple thing. So At the end of the whole shenanigans, the whole impasse, the Supreme Court has affirmed me as the duly elected and has stated this thing that Edozie Njoku was never the national chairman. Let me shock you. Are you aware that barely 1 month after this decision by the Supreme Court, he ran into another political party and started laying claim to the national chairmanship?
When did he now become a member when he was still trying to fight for APGA?
That's in fact, everything, the national chairman of that party, incidentally, is my friend, Pristine Edobi, who is equally from Imo State. In fact, every process he's filing in that matter is the processes he got from APGA to show that this man, as at 26th of November, was claiming to be the national chairman of APGA. 27th of November, Supreme Court delivered judgment. And by middle of December, he's now claiming to be the national chairman of NRM. That tells you the character of the person you're talking about. As I don't want to expend unnecessary energy.
And one of the criteria is Ndigbo not really national chairman of the party, or he has 2 years to live.
For me, the truth is, I don't know what the problem, but I think it speaks more about the character of the man in question. But I don't want to go into that.
I agree. Dalo APGA now, national APGA or party Ndigbo. Kefe eji akpọrọ APGA party Ndigbo, and then anọgide asị no onye agha na nwanne ya. APGA or party Ndigbo to start with. Go ahead.
I will answer that question. I will say yes and no. Yes, in the sense that if you go to the history of the party, remember, that was one of the first points I made when I started. APGA was a product of a clarion call for emancipation of Ndigbo.
And to give them a voice.
To give them a voice in the polity of our nation. 2002, 2003, under the administration of then President Olusegun Obasanjo, that some persons felt that we didn't really have a say. This fact has equally been made to me by very critical stakeholders in our politics, including bishops, who said then, because for them, they say the apex of the whole thing was the late Chinwoke Mbadinuju administration, where it seemed as if whatever we did here, people would just go to Abuja, you understand, and decide. So it was as if Abuja was deciding who would be the governor or senator or House of Rest member or House of Assembly member in Anambra. And so some persons felt that that was an unacceptable situation, because ascension to public office should be through popular election and not through nomination or appointment by the power brokers in Abuja. And so they said, okay, you know what? Why don't we form a political party that we can call our own, whose leadership are our people, through the instrumentality of which we can get our people into office, more like taking our destiny into our hands. That was how the then national chairman, Chief Chekwas Okorie, and other Igbo people came together. Remember I told you they wanted to form the old APGA, United Progressive Grand Alliance. INEC refused, they now formed APGA. They changed United to All. And so to that extent, you can say yes, APGA is an Igbo party, because that was the original intention of the founding fathers of the party, to make it a voice for Ndigbo. And that's how the motto came about: be your brothers and sisters keeper. That's direct translation. But ordinarily, it is Onyaga na Nwanne, leave no one behind. Gidi Gidi Bugweze said we can achieve so many things together. And like the governor of Anambra State will always say, because I always make allusion to so many of the immutable quotes that the governor will always use. He said, a system is as strong as the weakest link. So if you want to know how strong a system is, look at the weaker. How does that system take care of the weakest person in that system? That tells you how strong. You don't look at the powerful. You look at the weakest person and see how strong that shows you how strong that system is. And that is what APGA as a political party tries to enthrone in governance. But along the line, remember, a political party must be national in character. You can't be regional. Ideologically, you may be driven by regional consideration, but you must have a national outlook.
Appeal.
Yes, you must have a national headquarters. And you must have offices in all the states. Yes, you must have state chapters. Today in APGA, we have 36 state chapters. We have the APGA Zamfara state chapter. We have the APGA Kaduna state chapter. We have a state chairman in Zamfara. Functioning. I just finished a meeting with them just last Thursday in Abuja. Yes. So it must be national in outlook. Even though it maintains that regional appeal, it must be national in outlook. Now, when I came on board, and I will have to just speak about this, when it was very obvious that the leaders of the party had decided to throw up a young person like me as national chairman, I developed a manifesto, which I called the Drive APGA Manifesto. The drive comes, that drive is more like an acronym from the word drive, D-R-I-V. And that acronym more or less encapsulates what our vision is for APGA. Drawing from so many issues the party has had in the past, including one of the things you alluded to about the Imo State primaries debacle in 2019. So I'm going to just say what that drive stands for. D stands for discipline. Just like I said, some of the persons who the party entrusted the responsibility of performing certain critical functions, from the allegations we saw, derailed along the line and did something else. Extorted money from aspirants. And so, the only thing that can lead to that is a situation of indiscipline. Because everybody who is a party member knows the code of conduct of all party members as contained in the constitution of APGA. And so it's not as if anybody who is a member should arm himself with the constitution of the party. That's like the basic life book for every member of the party. And so we felt that was a product of indiscipline. And one of the things we needed to do was to take care of, because another issue or challenge we saw is a place where you have 3 or 4 aspirants contesting for primaries. One person picks the ticket. Ordinarily, there should be dignity or magnanimity in victory or in loss. If you lose an election or a primary election, you should honorably concede defeat and
support the person that.
But we now find out that when people lose the election, they go and sabotage the election and make sure that the party's candidate eventually loses the election. That can only happen as a result of gross indiscipline. And so we felt that the key to maintaining unity and cohesion in the party is entrenching discipline. When you see people, there is a result of an election or a primaries, and someone stays somewhere in the comfort of his office and changes the result of or alters the result of the primary election, that can only come from a place of indiscipline. And so we aggregated all these problems and we felt, no, the primary thing is discipline. Today, like I told you earlier on, we just had the local government primary election for the forthcoming local government election.
Yes.
And in cases where there were reported infractions, the party addressed it. In places where the result of the election was subverted, the party returned the result of the original winner and actually disciplined people who committed those infractions. The next one is R. R stands for rebranding and repositioning. And that comes to your question about APGA being a regional party or a national party. Like I said, in going down memory lane, I told you how the party was formed. We now felt that no, the party has been in existence for about 24 years now. From 2002 to 2026, we've been 24 years.
Yes.
And we feel that we've grown. We were the foremost progressive party, the first party under the current dispensation to be registered with the word progressive. So, like I said, so we felt that we needed to rebrand the party and reposition the party, no longer as a regional party, but a party that has a national outlook in such a way that we can equally partner with other progressives around the country. The most important thing is the enthronement of good governance. That's the most important thing. Then the other part of the rebranding is that we wanted to now make the party no longer a party for old men. Not that we don't have old men, because we need all manner of people in the party. We need the wisdom, the experience of people who are advanced in age and who are members of the party and who have seen it all.
Yes.
But the rebranding is now to make the party look youth-friendly in such a way that you can attract young people, both in leadership positions and in party positions.
Yes.
Then the I stands for inclusive leadership. And inclusive leadership is that leadership that serves and recognizes every strata, every organ, every level of leadership in the party, be it at the ward, at the local government, at the state, and at the national.
Yes.
Such a way that today, unlike what used to happen, if there is a congress at the ward level, at the national, we must sustain the outcome of that congress. So it's no longer a place where the ward people come together and probably take a decision. And because you feel, oh, you are the national chairman, you have the ultimate say, you can change this. No. If there's any decision taken by the ward, our job is to lead. Because once the constitution gives them the powers to take that decision, our job is simply to implement their decision, not to substitute our choice for their own. Then V stands for visibility. Visibility is why we are here. Why people say that I'm the most media-friendly national chairman.
Yes, I said
why you see me on various TVs, employ various media channels, the social media, and all whatnot to promote the party, to showcase what the party has done. And then finally, expansion. How we can expand APGA beyond the shores of the Southeast to get our brothers in other parts of the country. And so that's the full meaning of the word drive APGA agenda. So it's an agenda that we believe we can install discipline, reposition the party, provide inclusive leadership, make the party visible, and expand the party across the country.
Dalo.
Yes.
Dalo. When APGA bido, all the APGA age Southeast, I think we got Anambra, we got...
Yes. I can tell you that we won the 5 Southeast states, but it was rigged out.
Okay.
We were rigged out. No, we didn't. Maybe Ebonyi. Yes, 2003. No, I'm talking about the actual results of the election.
Okay.
I still remember because
we won the whole 5 states, right?
I told you.
APGA won the whole 5 states.
I wish you knew me in 2002. I followed Ojukwu to campaign in Imo. I could talk about APGA. In fact, the first nickname I answered in UNEC was APGA. Because there is this big pin-up. I was just a young man, under 20. And I was so passionate. Because when you hear our leader, when you hear Ojukwu talk then, driven by, Ojukwu is an orator. And so when you hear him, you feel this passion about your identity as an Igbo man. And about the fact that notwithstanding our identity and all the travails and tribulations we suffered during the war, it now seems there is still another civil war being perpetuated inside the democratic regime that we had then. That Ndigbo were being sidelined in the affairs of the country. So as a young person, I read so much that was the opportunity that brought more like made me research more into the activities that led to the Nigerian Civil War. You understand? And so I became a very passionate young man who believed that this party could... In that election, I was a polling unit agent. Yes, that 2000
presidential election. That
yes, 2003. I was a polling unit agent, both for P2B and all our candidates. And I can tell you, I still remember vividly our candidate across the 5 Southeast states. We had P2B in Anambra. We had one engineer, Ezeokenwa, in Imo. We had, I think it was Onwukokwa in Abia. We had Ugabala in Enugu, who I can't really remember was the candidate in Ebonyi, whether it was Onwe. I can't really remember who was the candidate. But with the exception of Ebonyi, I can tell you that we won more than 80% of the votes across the Southeast, with the exception of Ebonyi. But that election was massively rigged. But that's the worst election, 2003 election and 2007 election.
Morrissey who?
The worst election.
Right? INEC chairman.
I think 2003, I've forgotten whether it was Dr. Ebe Gobadia. I've really forgotten who was. 2007 was Morrissey.
Okay.
That's the one I'm sure. But 2003, I think it was Dr. Ebe Gobadia.
Okay.
That's the worst election, 2003, 2007. The worst election ever conducted in
the history of this country.
History of this country. Take it from me.
That P2B has to come and reclaim his
court for almost 3 years.
Mandate, yeah.
And it was just the grace of God, because if Ezekiel Ezeokenwa lost, Ugabala lost, Onwukokwa lost, it was only Peter that was able to reclaim his mandate.
How was your plan of reclaiming Southeast? APGA is just enjoying just only Anambra. We got APGA got Imo at a time through Charles Okrocha.
Absolutely.
You know, what is the plan? Keta, what is it called? Just like you guys will say, Anambra is APGA land. What is it called? Also, Anambra.
You see,
why don't we appeal to other southeastern states?
We are doing that. But you see, it's no longer as it used to be. So many things. Some people will say that so many water has passed under the bridge. So many things has happened. What we are doing now is more or less we are rebuilding the party from the scratch. We are trying to give the party a soul. It's very important. It's not just about reclaiming or getting this state or getting the other state. What identity are you giving the party? And so we are very conscious about giving this party an identity. It is that identity that will make people come to accept APGA as a political party. We believe that the key thing is to have enthroned a credible and integrity-driven electoral process. It's key. It's very, very important. Such a way that, of course, when elections are conducted, that elections and result or outcomes of election actually reflect
the
people's
people's
will or free choice of the people. That is key. The second one is another important point that I must make. It's the fact that as a party, under our administration, we believe that we don't necessarily need to be empowered to collaborate with political parties that share similar ideologies like us. I don't know if you understand. We don't necessarily, because if you say you're a progressive, there must be some things that reflect progressivism in your manifesto. If the ruling party in the country, the All Progressive Congress, say that they are progressives, there must be one or two things that show that they are progressives. If the Young Progressive Party claim to be progressives, there must be one or two things you can see in their manifesto that shows that they are progressives. And to that extent, we believe that political parties can collaborate, partner along ideological lines in such a way that, of course, when a progressive is in power in any state, that we as progressives can actually support them, provided they provide and they entrench progressive leadership. That is the most important thing. And so why we are striving? Because we believe that we have what it takes to enthrone good governance in any state. That shouldn't make us lose sight of the fact that as progressives, if we have a progressive in power in any state, that we can collaborate. The most important thing is have a system that works for all Nigerians, irrespective of their societal class. Yep.
Sly, I came across your interview with Voice of the People, Lagos.
Yep.
It is no longer news that the progressives are working together.
Absolutely.
In that interview, you actually mentioned, because you were asked why APGA is supporting Ndigbo.
Yep.
And then you mentioned, you say let's tell ourselves the truth that APGA doesn't have the capacity to contest for presidency. That's what you said. What do you mean by that?
Now, let me explain. Because I think it was a misinterpretation of the true meaning of that statement. I'm a realist. That doesn't mean that I'm not more or less, what is it called? Not an optimist, but I'm more of a realist. That, of course, I look to the future with optimism, but I still look at the reality.
Okay.
First, for you to contest an election, how much more a presidential election? That's why some people were pointing or trading accusations from outcome of 2023 elections. We have 8,809 electoral wards in Nigeria, and we have hundreds of thousands of polling units. It is expected that as a platform, you must have a structure across these places. Simple. Today, like I said, we are trying to build a strong, viable political party across the country.
Trying to build.
Yes, we have state chapters everywhere. I can tell you that. We have local government chapters in most parts of the country. There are some places where you don't even have what chapters of the party. And so, the thing is, you must build. I told you I had just met with my state chairman. The point is, we are trying to set up a structure. I don't contest the election for the sake of contesting. Because, if not for anything, more or less, it demeans the status of the party in the long run. Let me give you an example. One of the elections, the off-cycle election that is to take place, I think later this year, is the Ekiti State election. We don't have a candidate in that election. Not that we didn't have aspirants, but we didn't see the capacity for them to actually go and perform worthily or creditably in that election.
Put up a good fight. And we said no. So it will be, I don't know, really against the image of the party for us to have the winner of the election score about 500 and something thousand votes, for example, or 300 and something thousand votes, and your candidate is struggling to get 5,000 votes. That's not the kind of scenario I want to create for APGA at all. Yeah. Now, and that's why I alluded to progressive partnership between political parties that profess similar or close ideologies. And now, the next thing is, what is the next option for the party? The next option for the party is to look, one, for that party that has supported us, that professes similar ideology. And the only party we can identify in that line is the ruling party, the All Progressive Congress. Again, you come to other issues surrounding probably the decision or the meeting of the idea by the party that we can actually adopt the presidential candidate of APC. And I'm going to take you back memory lane. First, there was a policy crafted by our forebearers in 2010, when incidentally Mr. Peter Obi was the governor of Anambra State and Chief Senator Victor Ime was the national chairman. And what was that policy? It was more or less a survival strategy by the party to pitch tents and support the party at the center. That policy led to APGA's adoption of Goodluck Jonathan as our candidate in 2011. We didn't produce a presidential candidate. Yes.
That policy led to the adoption of Jonathan again for a second term in 2015. We didn't produce a presidential candidate. Of course, people who are asking questions could have asked APGA, does it mean you don't have capacity to produce a candidate? Oh, yes. Could have given anybody a ticket. Person will go and return some 50,000 votes around Nigeria. Does that mean you have actually contested or participated in the election? Hell no. In 2019, APGA deviated from that policy, even though they didn't deviate from their support for the ruling party. When I mean by deviated from that policy, they now had a presidential candidate. one, I think, General Jumbo, who was from Benue State. I don't know whether he scored up to 100,000 votes in that election. Why the winner, I think Buhari scored 12 or 15 million votes. He didn't score up to 100,000 votes. The same thing happened in 2023. And today,
Peter Umadi.
yes, Peter Umadi. And today, the party has decided that in the best interest, we can collaborate and align or, partner along ideological line. The most important thing is that what party professes similar ideology like we do? As no one eme can see eme. That's the position of the party. Secondly, I'm talking about, you remember I just talked about the policy crafted by the leaders of the party in the past. The second one is the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been very fair to APGA.
Tinubu's government.
This current administration.
How so?
Previously, 2011 we supported Jonathan. What did we get for it? I think it was ambassador. That's all. I think we had a Nigerian who was an ambassador to Burundi. That was the only thing we got. Then subsequently, much later, I think Ambassador Bianca Ojukwu was made ambassador to Spain. Much later. Today, the president openly comes out and professes that he is the friend of our national leader. Remember, our national leader is Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo. He has never hidden his admiration. At every fora, the president doesn't fail to eulogize our national leader as a very intelligent Nigerian, one of the people who will bring their intelligence to advance the prosperity and well-being of Nigerians. So
he does.
We commend the president for singling out our not minding that he's not a governor on his own platform. That's number one. Two, the president appointed a member of APGA as a minister in his cabinet. Irrespective of the fact that in 2023, Anambra didn't give Mr. President up to 5 or 10% of the total votes, he still appointed a serving BOT member, the wife of our late spiritual leader, as the minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And the other young man you just hosted last week or 2 weeks ago, Mark Okoye Jr., is a member of APGA till date. Pioneer MD CEO of Southeast Development Commission. The president has thousands, if not millions, of members of his party from the Southeast, but he chose an APGA person. And so we thank the president and we assure him, definitely, of our full support. The last point is even a connection to the other point that I just made. We just had the November governorship election.
Mm-hmm.
What did the president do? The president created an atmosphere, charged the Independent National Electoral Commission, the security agencies, to ensure the conduct of a credible election in Anambra. And that was what happened.
No interference.
No interference whatsoever. No interference whatsoever. And of course, the last but not the least, that's the fourth point now, is we support the bold economic initiatives that the president has undertaken, as difficult as it is. But those initiatives for economists was what has ensured the survival of Nigeria till date. And so we looked at all these points and we said, no, we are headed in the right direction with the president. We have no option.
What economic benefits are you talking about, Sly?
How do I put it? Today, that you have an economy that today, Google, IMF ranking, World Bank ranking, Nigeria is the 6th biggest contributor to world GDP. We have never been in the top 20, at least in the past 10 years or 15 years. You know, you must reason and understand the economic terms. This one is not, of course, people understand, what they know is the fact that fuel has risen from this to this. They don't understand the
But
economic
that's the one that they are
Of course,
actually
we're-
feeling the
we're-
impact.
we're saying the
It's the
same thing.
grassroots.
Let me-
People are hungry on the grassroots, and you're telling me about ranking of IMF. People are hungry, going to bed hungry.
Let me explain
And you're
it.
telling me about the ranking. How do I feel
Now,
it?
let me explain it in practical terms. I'll draw an analogy. Nigeria can be likened to a very poor country with broken financial structure, living large. It's just like a man who is a taxi driver. Do you understand? You know, he knows that in a month he tries to earn about 100 or 150,000. He has 2-3 children. There is a university where they can pay 50,000 naira a session. He leaves that university and puts them maybe in Covenant University where their annual school fees is about 6-7 million. I know what that man does. To be able to pay the school fees, he borrows and borrows and borrows and borrows, living large. Unforced, the kids believe that, of course, he borrows to buy vehicles, borrows to do so many things, to live large. Meanwhile, he knows where his strength is, his income, where he can take him to. Are you aware that before Tinubu came in, it got so bad that we started borrowing to pay subsidy? The president came in and said, this is all. Go and look at the IMF ranking then. If there is any color worse than red, we are in that color. The president came in and said, no. Because you cannot attract investors. You are not a viable economy. Nobody can come in. Today, as a result of the president's intervention and economic reforms, of course, yes, we bore the brunt. But at some point, we saw things started because, first of all, the price of fuel and energy began to be determined by the market forces of demand and supply, which was elementary economics. For people like us that studied economics in secondary school, they say the prices of product are determined by the market forces of demand and supply. It was elementary economics and no longer fixed by the government through the very crooked and corrupt subsidy regime. Apart from that, the fact that most people corruptly enrich themselves, because the moment you subsidize the price of those petroleum products, it means you sell far cheaper than is obtainable in other countries. Yes, subsidy is a very noble initiative, but the problem is that the country could not manage it because of corruption. Because it meant that people will import fuel, collect subsidy, smuggle the same fuel outside of Nigeria because they've collected money to sell it outside where it sells actually costlier. These were, and many more, were part of the economic issues in such a way that even in 2023, remember, almost all the presidential candidates of major political parties agreed that the subsidy regime was unsustainable. Don't mind the fact that Tinubu is the president. If any other person had become president, whether the Labour Party candidate or the PDP candidate, if they had removed subsidy, what was obtainable is the same thing that would have happened in that person's government. Nothing else. That was nothing you could have done. What is obtainable today is because it meant that the price of fuel will be determined by the international price of crude oil. It's simple. This is basic and elementary economics.
In all this, you mean that Tinubu met something that I've already spoiled?
Absolutely. In fact, I think it's the governor of Anambra State that said that the economy Tinubu inherited was a standing dead horse. You know, when something is dead, it should fall. So, but this horse was standing. So, looking at it from afar, it looks as if that horse was still alive, but it was dead, but it was still standing. Are you aware that at some point in this country, the previous administration, I don't know how to liken that administration, even though it's still an APC government, the previous administration was literally printing naira notes to pay salary. Economists will tell you what it means to literally print currency that is backed by nothing. The next thing is your
Inflation.
Inflation. Massive inflation. And so, yes, to the extent that the Tinubu administration is an APC government, yes, he has the blame. But as a person that there are meaningful economic turnaround happening today is because of his bold effort in driving our economy, at least to pull out of today. You noticed inflation is easing off. The only thing is the war in the Gulf region is what seems to have changed everything. The energy prices, everything is skyrocketing again. But look at late last year, the prices of food, rice, other staple food actually came very down. Because in the long run, I love economics. Economists will tell you, they talk about the long run. There are short-term gains and there are long-term gains. In the short term, of course, you're going to feel the impact, the pressure, the hardship and everything. That is a necessary corollary of the economic reforms that the president undertook, of which anybody that wanted the progress of Nigeria would have done the same thing. So we are looking at how do we build the investor confidence for people to know that this is a viable economy for investors to come. And if you go abroad, you see the value. Funny enough, most people that are criticizing that administration, they go abroad, they see the prices of things, they keep quiet. Yeah.
I don't know why you people are trying so hard to demonize the government of Buhari. This is a government that even APGA, Willie Obiano's government, eulogized. Because I remember when APGA was sending delegates to Abuja, if you can remember, the likes of what? To go and greet President Buhari, the likes of Anya got them to go and identify with him.
You see, you must understand something.
If you can remember,
you must understand something. There's a difference between the party and then the government. Of course,
there must be.
I'm coming. I said you must understand certain things. You see, as a party, whether you like it or not, we must play the survival strategy. It's key. But I'm telling you, what we do now, because remember then, under Buhari, we produced presidential candidates twice. That tells you the level of support that we gave that government. We had our presidential candidates.
Which you were actually saying it was not the best.
Maybe.
Now.
But the fact remains, the point I'm making is, it tells you the level of support or relationship we enjoyed. But at the same time, we live in Nigeria and we understand the powers, the humongous powers of the federal government. If the federal government sneezes, APGA can go into extinction. That's why I said, the crafters of that policy on supporting the government at the center saw it more or less as a survival strategy. But I'm telling you the fact. What led, because within the government of the Buhari government, apart from what I may say, the rhetorical support, there was nothing deep to show that deep-seated relationship between the government of Buhari and our party. Nothing. It's not in terms of appointment, not in terms of anything. No consideration was given to us. Today, you can see a deep-rooted relationship. Because we believe that as progressive, we must partner along ideological lines. And whether you like it or not, people have... I'm not saying that Tinubu is a messiah. That's not the point I'm making. Or that he has enthroned a perfect system. But the fact remains that he has been able to drive bold economic reforms. I said, just Google. Don't take what I say. Just listen to core economists. Tell you that this man has been touted as one of the people that take the bold, albeit hard decisions to move. He did it in Lagos as governor of Lagos, and he's doing it today in the country. The economy is turning around, no doubt. There are indices. It's not. Don't take what I say. Google.
So Tinubu is meeting what he did not prepare for. Is that what you're saying? Because now, see.
I understand your point.
Wait. Before you contest for a particular position,
absolutely,
you're meant to go back and observe. That is what you will capture in your manifesto.
That's the point I'm trying to make now.
Wait, let me land. That is what you capture in your manifesto. I'm coming to change this. I know. Just the way Sudo said that he has actually achieved.
I know absolutely. where
90%
you're
of
going.
his. This is a man that told us, if
Yes.
I don't give you power supply 24/7, don't vote for me for second tenure. Why are you excusing
Now,
him?
funny enough.
Does that mean he did not prepare for this?
Funny enough.
Because he would have studied the economy and know that I'm coming to meet
Funny
this.
enough, let me start from the last thing you said. I don't hold forth for Tinubu. I am only
seems like you are.
No. You are misunderstanding me. Don't get me wrong. I'm telling you why our party is supporting Tinubu. That's the point I'm making. I'm not Tinubu's media advisor. I'm not Tinubu's spokesperson. That's number one. Number two, and because I'm not Tinubu's spokesperson, I shouldn't be saying, answer the last question you asked about what he said. He said, if you don't know, well, I've been opportune to see a full version of the video that you referred to. And it seems that was not what he said.
Not the context.
Not the context. That's why, but remember, I'm not his spokesperson. It is for his spokespersons to do that. But I must say this, that I've seen the full version of the video. If you take it, you see that that quote was taken out of context. We are not in campaigns. This is the point that I want to make. The point is, when you said that Tinubu knew exactly what he was coming to meet, and that he shouldn't be excused for any inefficiency whatsoever, I agree with you 100%. In fact, as national chairman, I issued a statement. There was a statement credited to the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu. I think it was in 2024, where she said, the First Lady said, and I quote, that my husband is not a magician. That was what she said. That the husband is trying his best to solve the problems of Nigeria, but the problems are so endemic and enormous that Nigerians should not expect an overnight solution to all the problems. In my statement and in various interviews, I said, Madam, I'm sorry. Yes, your husband has done well, but Nigerians need him to be a magician.
That's what the job asks for.
Because not just the job, he, like my governor said, saw the problems, you applied. Ordinarily, the simplest thing would have been, the damage has been done. I cannot rectify this.
Somebody else come and do.
Walk away. And that's why I commend him. I commend him because he didn't shy away from that responsibility. He saw the job, applied for it, fought his way through, maneuvered through their primaries processes, got the nomination, and against all odds, got elected as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He is a magician, because anybody that followed the APC primaries and saw how he emerged will know that he's a magician. So we expect him to perform magic and solve our problems. I'm one of those that have that high expectation of him. Has he failed my expectations? No. Yes. Has he fulfilled my expectations to an excellent extent? No. But I'll score him at least a 7 to 7.5.
That's an A.
Yes, he's an A. He is an A. He is an A. Absolutely.
Now.
Absolutely.
Okay. You're my guest.
I can, you see this argument, I can take it up. There are many people. Let me tell you. You see, we pay unusual attention to the president. Do you know why Anambra State is a model? Most people in Anambra don't even remember that Tinubu is their president. You know why?
No.
We have a governor who is performing very well here. Part of the reason, because the president has been able to fix our financial system, fix our revenue generation system and everything, more money comes to states.
A level playing ground.
Yes. Most states governors, I'm sorry to say this, are not doing well. And Nigerians have left their governors and everybody is focusing on the president. Are you aware? So much of the problem that we have at the nation today, Tinubu is on the course of solving it. Let me even just take a detour a little bit. And maybe, I don't know whether we are winding up, but I must say this. The greatest challenge we've had as a nation is that we run, or we are supposedly run, a federal structure that is more a unitary government in character. In a federation, you devolve powers among the federal or the center, the federal government, and the federating units.
That's system.
Absolutely. Today, you see, Ndigbo is, I'm not mincing words. Look at the restructuring of the local government system. Under this government actually took state governments to court. In 2024, got a judgment to ensure that local government financial autonomy is entrenched, and he succeeded. Today, we have grassroots structure across the 774 local governments in the country. Ndigbo. This government took out power from the exclusive legislative list and put it in the concurrent legislative list in such a way that even state and private individuals can generate power.
I want to make healthy living a culture in our society. The time to make exercise, sweat. That sweat is very important. Ibana garden, bela akwụkwọ very natural food. Or if your body need it, just nyobana day to chukwu.
So the job of the government is to create the enabling environment for states to thrive. Today, in a bid to address the insecurity in the country, the president has supported, I am the first national chairman, you can Google it, that called for the restructuring of the security architecture in the country. There should be state police. If you go to the United States, you see, of course, you watch movies, you see LAPD, you see NYPD. That's how we should be. We should have an Anambra State Police Division. Not as one, so police is
PF.
under the concurrent, or even it should be directly under the concurrent list. There should be no reason why I need the IG or police to secure Anambra. The president has voiced his support for that.
He has?
Yes.
Recently?
Recently, it is Nigerians that are fighting it and saying, oh, if you give the police to the state governors, they are going to use it balderdash. We are talking about securing Nigeria. This president, in the new electoral act, has strengthened political parties in such a way that gives more power to Nigerians. Let me tell you, I can regale you. I studied this government. I've studied previous governments. And I can tell you, the only government close to what we have today was the government of President Olusegun Obasanjo. The only thing the Obasanjo government didn't do well was elections.
You mean that of the civilian rule?
Yes, the civilian rule I meant.
Okay.
Elections. There was so much interference from that administration during the conduct of elections. And I pray that there won't be such for this administration. In Anambra, we've seen one of the elections the president conducted. Anambra was more or less 95% credible. And so, I can tell you, for every 2-3 things the president has not done well, there are more than 10 that I can count to you that the president has done well. We have a viable economy, recovering and everything. I can tell you 2-3 key things I want the president to do that he has not done. Number one, I keep saying it. The president should, as much as possible, reduce the influence of politics in his governance. It is very important.
What do you mean by that?
Let me explain what I mean. Today, see this ex-governor this, ex-governor that, manning one ministry or the other, with most of them inefficient. Look at the critical sectors of the economy that are performing. They are not being manned by all these old and recycled politicians. The critical sectors of the economy performing under this administration. And so, the president must reduce that to a reasonable extent. 2, the president must drastically reduce the cost of governance. Like I said earlier on, public service ought to be the highest form of charity. Because you can't be telling Nigerians, I've made this point several, if you tell Nigerians to endure and try to go through the reforms you've orchestrated in the interest of Nigerians, then he said judgment will start from the house of God. It should actually start from
Should reflect
those in power.
with you that you actually
Exactly.
managing too.
Just saw the other day, I don't know, for whatever reason, So we see so much
Extravagance.
if I may use that word, the president he has done some, because there was a time he brought out an executive order reducing the number of people that should encourage
VIPs.
Yes, I encourage that. I said that's the way to go, but the president should drastically, it should be further reduced. If you say we are not rich and we are trying to engineer some reforms to make Nigerians work, then it should reflect in life, both in the budget of the National Assembly, the executives, every arm
Your
of
family
government
members too.
should be drastically reduced. Drastically. Because when you say this, Nigerians see, oh, our president is actually doing this or doing that, then I think we can. If the
There's
president
money.
calls on us, then we can. And that's the point. But the fact remains, this government has scored this government nothing less than a 7. The government is headed in the right direction. The only thing just needs to take care of one or two things to make sure that when you tell Nigerians you're doing reforms, they should endure your reforms. You should be able to be a reflection of your demand from Nigerians.
I get your first point. It seems like he's paying more attention to loyalists than competence. There are actually a lot of people in his government that worked with him earlier on that he wants to actually more like compensate them. That's the politics we're talking about.
That's the thing. Everybody that was saying in playing politics, first of all, you should be a statesman. Statesmen think about the next generation. Politicians think about the next election. I'm just calling on the president to actually be. There are so many things the governor of Anambra State has done, even while campaigning, that nobody. People say, no, there's something unique about Soludo. The easiest thing for anybody that is contesting an election is not to dabble into certain things, because you know that those things emotionally can affect you, especially when the wrong sentiments are pitched against you. But he took the boat and he said, no, I'm a statesman. I'm thinking about the next generation. That's one thing politicians should do. People in public office should think about the next generation. 10, 20, 30 years from now, where will Nigerian be? And that's why I'm happy with the reforms the president. I actually want the next person that will come after the president, when he eventually leaves office, to actually key into these reforms and take Nigeria to the next level. That's just the beautiful thing that should be done.
Since you speak so well of this man, Ndigbo, what is the economic impact of the national anthem that he actually...
I think it's a question of the value system for whatever it is worth. Have you listened to that national anthem?
Brotherhood is like we're in court.
It's not
brotherhood we stand.
Brotherhood, because we have...
No,
it's not cultist. Yeah? Were you a cultist?
I'm the host. I'm going to ask questions because I know
we're not talking about brotherhood and
brotherhood, fraternity.
No. Fraternity. The word fraternity is an English word. Not mind about the fact
but
no, it's been bastardized.
It has connotations.
No, it does not.
Connotations.
It is bastardization. It is bastardization. When you say fraternal, it's brotherly. When these bad boys now use it, it's the wrong connotation. Fraternity means that relationship that should exist between brothers, close relationship. And we have about 250 something ethnic groups in Nigeria. Say, though tribes and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. It is a clarion call for everybody to jettison, because the greatest challenge we have is that everything, if an Igbo man is the president, the Hausa man will not believe that he's doing anything good. If a Yoruba man is president, the Igbo man will never believe that he's doing anything good. Because we reason along regional lines. We reason along ethnic lines. Governor Soludo will tell you that there is no Hausa way of good governance. Good governance is good governance. It affects everybody. Bad governance is bad governance. It affects everybody negatively. And so, I love the fact, and I actually want the president to lead by example in Actually, because the other day I think at IPAC we paid iftar, broke fast with the president. I think it was about 2 weeks, and I loved the passion. It was the first time I was seeing a president sing the national anthem with passion. I think it actually evokes some sort of nostalgia for the president.
Colonial nostalgia.
I don't know about that. I don't think it's a colonial nostalgia.
Because Arise, O Compatriot is very...
No. Arise, O Compatriot is good. But listen to lyrics of this. This anthem highlights the challenges we have as a nation. The other one is more like a clarion call. This one reminds you. He said, this thing, Nigeria we hail thee. Listen to the lyrics of that anthem. I wasn't there before it was changed, but I can tell you that it evokes strong emotion. Anybody, listen to the lyrics.
I'm coming to change it too, because I will soon contest too and then come and change it. Now,
can I even tell you something?
Go ahead.
I got to know about that anthem when I was in secondary school.
Mm-hmm.
My father would never stop talking about it.
The passion and the understanding.
That was the first time I said, Nigeria we hail thee. My own dear, with this native land, though tribes and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. That's the highest point of that anthem. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. It is a constant reminder of what binds us together, that unity in diversity. And that's what we need. You see, if you go to Rwanda fought one of the harshest and most bitter civil war that led to the killing of millions, is it Hutsis and Tutsis? I'm forgetting the names of the tribe. At some point, the current president, Paul Kagame, has so unified Rwanda. If you go and meet a young Rwandan, I wish we would get to a day like that. If you meet a young Rwandan today and ask the person, what tribe are you? He said, I'm a Rwandan. Yeah. Go to that country and see the development. I don't know whether you see. Try and pay a visit.
A mind shift.
Yeah, the mind shift. That's what we need in Nigeria. Yeah, the man, I don't see you as an Igbo man. Yes, I know. I must reflect my
identity.
My identity. It's key. But in national discourse, our culture shouldn't play a role. It is rather our patriotism. And it's a clarion call for us to be patriotic, to see ourselves as Nigerians.
Just the way we reflect it in football, Super Eagles and everything.
Absolutely.
There's no outside, there's no Igbo.
Absolutely.
We all come out to support that Super Eagles.
And when they are playing,
nobody
you
asks
don't
who
see an
scored
Hausa
goal.
man who doesn't pass to you because you're not an Hausa man. That's what we need in Nigeria to move the country forward. Yeah.
You people have adopted Ndigbo as
We've
Igbo's
not.
presidential, but you are planning to.
Maybe not.
What about our brother Peter Obi? You said in the interview that Peter Obi is not in APGA.
Yes, he's
in
not
your
in APGA.
Is Tinubu in APGA?
Tinubu is not in APGA, but will collaborate with the ruling party. Yep.
Okay, Peter Obi APGA. Why can't we adopt Peter Obi?
It is rather the other way around. Can APGA melu Peter Obi? Why don't you ask that question that way? Because it seems that is a consistent effort to annihilate the party that made him. But I don't really want to go into that question.
He handed over to an African
There's definitely no doubt about that. And
candidate. So how is he annihilating the party?
You know, go into Ndigbo na na mmadụ na ibolo mmadụ nu ha kpoye mmiri.
So
I want to go into that point. The person you handed over, you did everything possible to remove him in 2017. So let's not go into that. Like I said, he's free. Let me say this point. Mr. Peter Obi, of course, is till tomorrow remains one of the persons we are grateful to for his time in APGA. Yeah. He was the pioneer governor on the platform of APGA. Tried as much as possible to stabilize the party, tried as much as possible to carry the message of the party, and did well by not decamping from the party
while he was incumbent.
governor. Because if he had done that, maybe the party would have died. There's no doubt about it. And so he has his respect. If we call APGA Hall of Fame, I think he should be comfortably seated there. There's no doubt about it. But then the question is, part of the problem and the challenge, at some point he decided that the party that made him, because it is the party that made him, that point must be made. He decided that the party that made him no longer served his interest.
Viable.
Yeah, I don't know whether viable or not. He said it no longer served his interest, and then he chose another platform. Of course, I wish him well.
So after saying he will never leave.
Yeah, I don't want to go into that. People make certain commitments that they know they are not ready to keep, so I don't want to go into those issues. The fact remains that he's in another platform. And a platform that is not APGA. Fact. And a platform that has different ideology, professes different things from what we profess. And a platform that seems to be antagonistic to us. It's very important that we make that point. And the moment that antagonism comes, then you cannot have that healthy collaboration with them again. You can't. It's not about him, it's about his platform. Simple. And I would really have expressed that. I would really love to see the day that Peter will come back to APGA. When people ask the question, APGA has served him and he no longer has the need for APGA, I try to refer you to the current president. When Ndigbo left office, just like Peter Obi, the only state being controlled then by Alliance for Democracy was Alliance for Democracy and then metamorphosed to Action Congress. Was only Lagos State.
Yes.
Yeah, it was only Lagos State.
For 8 years.
The president, or Ndigbo, did not abandon his party to pursue his so-called ambition, national ambition. What he did was to see, because you see, Nigerian plays politics. I always say this, Nigeria as a country, we play politics along regional lines. If you look at the First Republic, it was the Northern Eastern Coalition that led to the unity government formed by Tafawa Balewa and Nnamdi Azikiwe. The MPC and NCNC alliance. The same thing repeated again in 1979 during the Second Republic.
Shagari?
The Shagari, the MPP, MPM accord. Remember, Shagari was the president. Our brother, Ezeokenwa, was the vice president. The Speaker of the House was Edwin Umezuoke, who was MPP. That's the accord that we had in the Second Republic. And so you don't necessarily need to leave your party, because when you leave your party, it means you never believed in their ideology. You just see that party as you're just an opportunist who sees this party as a vehicle to ascend to power. Membership of political parties should be ideologically driven. It's unimaginable today that you go to America and you see, what is his name? Barack Obama leave Democratic Party and join the Republicans. Is it possible? It's impossible. But here, we have no ideology. And you see a man, today you are in party A, in the evening you are in party B, the next day you are in party C. Some persons have gone around 5 political parties. It means you never believed at all. You just see you're just an opportunist looking for a platform. That's the problem with politicians of today.
Don't you see your current national leader going through this route in future?
Let's see how it goes. For now, that's why we're talking about this alliance. It's better because we operate a multi-party democracy. We are not like America. that has just two major political parties. We operate a multi-party. In Nigeria, we have about 19 political parties registered. And because we operate a multi-party democracy, ordinarily, it was very easy for our governor to have jumped ship before his re-election. It was very easy. And if he had jumped ship, he would have still won the election. Nothing will happen. Yeah. But that tells you that he understands ideology, the place of ideology in politics. And rather than jumping ship, you can find a way to collaborate healthy. Have a healthy collaboration. That's what we preach. Have a healthy collaboration. Or you can even have a merger. Yeah.
Sly, why does APGA look like a party where people use and dump? You know, we have the case of Abaribe trying to do that. We have the case of Rochas. You know what I'm talking about.
There is no way I can answer that question.
You know, why does it look like...
You ask the people that dump the party why they do that. Like I said, the problem is a Nigerian problem. It's not an APGA problem. The problem is a Nigerian problem. Politicians don't believe in political parties. They just see parties as vehicle of opportunity. Finish.
I've heard you talk about the Igbos playing politics with emotions and how it will not get us anywhere. Now, let me put it to you. What do you think we're doing wrongly as Ndigbo politically that we need to actually at least do something different? Go ahead.
Very simple. We need to play politics of strategic positioning. Let me put it in simple terms. You do not put all your eggs in one basket. I will make an allusion, more like a rhetorical question. Are you aware that when Buhari, in 2019, Buhari was a northerner? You are aware?
Yes.
When he was seeking for a re-election, if there is a social, political or socio-cultural group that unites all northerners, it is Arewa Consultative Forum. You've heard of it?
Yes, I have.
Are you aware that Arewa never endorsed Buhari in 2019? Arewa didn't. That's what we call politics of strategic positioning. Because the moment you endorse a person, it means that you've sold off your brothers in the other political parties. Yes. What most intelligent people do is simple. Use the campaign period as an opportunity for engagement, as an opportunity to bargain. So today, let's imagine that we have 3 major candidates. What Ndigbo should do is simple. Give everybody a fair opportunity. Very fair opportunity. Invite the incumbent. Okay, we've seen your manifesto. You're seeking for re-election. You know, we didn't really get the Southeast. We didn't really get what we expected. We noticed that we're not accommodated in the railway project. What will you do for us if we support you? Or what will you do for us if you are re-elected? You extract commitment. I don't know if you understand. You extract commitment. He said, okay, we'll see what we'll do. We're not going to be against you. We are going to, of course, let people campaign freely. If you succeed, we wish you all the best. Just like people who are contesting an election and they go to see their traditional ruler. The traditional ruler is not meant to take sides because you are the father of all.
Yes.
What you're supposed to do is simply to impart your blessings. Wish them well and pray. Let the best candidate win. The man from the north comes, you sit him down, extract similar promise and commitment from him. Your brother comes, you do the same thing. Because no nation, the way Nigeria is composed, there is no nation or any region that can make a president. It's not possible.
Solely.
You're You cannot. In fact, if you look at the demographics, you see that we are highly disadvantaged as a people. Most times, the votes that come out of the 5 Southeast states may not be up to the votes that come out of maybe Kano State alone.
I agree.
That's the sad reality. And so the moment you begin to do, oh, no, it must be, yes. And you see, I'm not one of those, I'm sorry to say this on this platform. I'm not one of those that is so keen on Igbo president. I'm not. I'll tell you why. What we need is healthy regional economic collaboration and development. Healthy regional, Southeast regional economic collaboration and development in such a way that the 5 Southeast states, the governors will come together, bond together, and find a way to accelerate development, investment, and opportunities in the Southeast. You just told me you are from Aba. President Buhari, in fact, are you aware that in the past, how many years? From 2007 to now is about 19 years. Katsina State has produced 2 presidents within that period. Katsina State has produced 2 presidents. President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua and President Muhammadu Buhari.
Just one state.
One state. Can I ask you a question? Can you compare the life of an average man in Katsina to the life of the average man in Anambra State?
Never.
Who is better?
Anambra State.
Have we produced a president?
No.
That answers your question. The presidency is an elitist game. It is for the elites. He and his cronies. So when they do this agitation, oh, we need the I'm not saying that a president is good, but what we need is to have an economic viable region that will be the pride. If Lagos State never produced Tinubu, if Lagos is a country, Lagos will be among the top maybe 15 economies in the world. Lagos as a state, if Lagos were to be a country, Lagos doesn't need any damn president to be where they are. That's what we need. Look at what we are doing in Anambra. Look at what is happening in Enugu. Look at what is happening in Abia, Imo. That's what we need. Healthy economic, and I listened to the beautiful speech, the acceptance, inauguration speech of our governor. I saw the charge. I've consistently maintained that. In fact, at some point, having discussion with some young-minded Igbo men for us to form a committee to champion the Southeast regional economic development and collaboration. That's what we need. Simple. If the president comes, oh, it's an added incentive. If the president doesn't come, oh, well, we are doing well. Economically, we need to be the pride of the nation. In fact, if we concentrate so much on healthy regional economic collaboration, at some point, and we ignore what is happening in the leadership of the country, at some point, the country will invite you, please, come and lead us. We want Nigeria to witness what is happening in your region. We can't do this thing for ourselves. Come, they will practically beg you to come and lead the country. It's as simple as that.
You talked about Soludo's inaugural speech. You've also re-echoed the part where he asks us not to waste our votes again in 2027. I think you've said that too somehow.
Absolutely.
Even if I think you've implied it. What do you guys mean by that?
When you say you don't, what we're saying, not really. We just said, let's be very strategic.
That Ndigbo not waste their votes again. It means we said before.
When you say in 20, when they say certain things, the answers are not far-fetched. Because when you complain, you ask yourself, in 2015, you gave almost 90-something% of your vote to a political party. What happened? You complained for 4 years. In 2019, you repeated the same thing again. You complained for the next 4 years. In 2023, the problem is if we decide to toe a particular political path, it is our choice. But let us not complain afterwards.
Yes. Blame game.
As simple as that. Let's not complain.
Let's accept
afterwards.
the consequences of our choices.
Simple. It is simple.
And stop crying foul.
It is simple. If we make political choices, there should be consequences.
Political consequences.
Simple. It is very simple. I'm sorry. It maybe ought not to be, but
that's the reality.
Sadly, that's the reality in our country.
The reality.
And so the moment you make those wrong political choices, if it is the right political choices, of course you reap the benefit. If it's the wrong political choice, you reap the consequences. It is simple. There are no sentiments about it. And so I don't think I want to use the word to say, maybe we say, wasting of votes is a very harsh word to use.
That was what he used, actually.
I can say that this is a very, because people vote based on their convictions. We're just saying, let's be more strategic. Let's be more strategic. Let's, review the candidates critically. Let's be more strategic. Let's reduce the place of emotion in politics. That's the only charge I give Ndigbo. Let us less emotion, more strategy. Less emotion, more strategy.
You guys can't be asking us to reduce what you guys are also using as your tool. You guys are telling us not to be emotional, but when you guys want to do election, you tell us nkai. That is one of the most highest point of emotional manipulation. It is sentimental.
It is a fact.
And then you cannot be telling us not to use emotion. When APGA uses emotion at every single election,
the way campaign,
these are our own.
The way campaign
we should leave part in the Hausa.
Is in
you actually literally address APC as part of the Hausa.
No, we don't do that.
I heard it. Maybe not from the national leadership.
Can I tell you?
But from the grassroots,
when you say that, you begin to indict our brother you are talking about. I've been in this party. I don't want to say certain things.
Which our brother?
You know the person you are talking about.
Okay.
Contesting in another party.
Okay.
I know. In 2010 elections, 2011 elections, 2013 elections, 2015 elections, I know the sentiments that were whipped up. Not by the current administration. In fact, the current administration has tried to de-emphasize those sentiments. I can tell you that. The current administration. So when we say Nkabunkanyi, it is a statement of fact, not a statement of emotion. It's a statement of fact. And that is not the basis upon which we campaign. We campaign primarily with the performance of our governor in office. Primarily. And so when you have additional stuff that you can campaign, but primarily, we campaign with performance. That APGA has engineered and engendered an A-class performance in Anambra State. Even you cannot dispute that. So the primary tool of campaign for us is performance. That's our primary tool of campaign.
So Soludo got into government via the previous government's performance that the manifesto actually captured about plenty of the ills he actually met in his own government.
Now, when you talk about how Soludo came into office as a result of so many things, we admit some of the inadequacies of the previous administration. You won't even equally deny that administration did well in so many areas. Today, we have an airport, we have an ICC, so many legacy projects that administration did. Road-wise, because the major area that administration was criticized was on the aspect of road construction. That's the major area. So it's wrong to say that administration performed poorly. Maybe not as much as the current administration is doing, but that administration did not perform poorly. Combined with the personality and the persona of our candidate. Because a political party campaigns with two things, or three things. The ideology of the party, the performance of the party, and the persona of the candidate. Three things. These three things are interwoven in any election. And so part of what saved us in that election, why some persons, It's still up to debate whether that administration did excellent or not. But you will not deny that that administration achieved some measure of milestone. And coupled with the candidacy of a man of impeccable character, it was easy for us to have that sale.
So the solution. Lastly, I'll let you go because we've actually had a swell time.
Absolutely.
We're preparing for the next election. We're in a season. 2026 federal, national elections and state elections in some states and everything.
Yeah.
APGA is back again to become the beautiful bride that everybody wants to go and pay their bride price. People. And this is, if I'm not mistaken, this will be your first experience as a national chairman. I know that after it has happened before you became mate at first. It has already happened.
Yes,
so this will be your first experience of the whole election. How do you guys cope to manage a lot of the big weights trying to come back to APGA? We see what's already happening in Anambra North. Stella Odua is back. Alex Obiobole is there. Primus is there, the former chief of staff. We see what's happening at with the Onion Dozie or Chiaya. How do you hope to manage the big weights and then now that people want to come and embrace this beautiful bride once again? Go ahead, please.
It's a very simple thing. In every system, once you build strong institutions, the system will survive.
Okay.
And what builds strong institutions is the will of the leaders to enthrone transparency and integrity in whatever process that they have set up, especially the primary election process. Today we have challenges. Part of the challenges we have today is a radically different structure that has now been engineered by the new Electoral Act. It's a very big problem. Under the previous Electoral Act, at least from 1999, 2006 to 2010 to 2022, the system of primaries that most political parties had adopted was the indirect system of primaries. Today, for the first time in over 30 years, we now have direct primaries as the only mode of primaries, apart from the consensus.
Anybody can emerge.
Of course, anybody can emerge. And so, the moment the structure is there, or the legislation is there, the next thing is, how do you ensure that you have a credible primaries? And like I said, remember you asked questions about what happened in Imo in 2018. And we told you, because you can actually try to set up a viable system or structure to ensure credible primaries. And the people you send to conduct the primaries go there and mess up the whole thing. It's still a possibility. So you must have at the back of your mind that this is a possibility and you must do your utmost best to take care of it. Again, the conduct of direct primaries comes or throws up its peculiar logistics challenges, because you will not be conducting primaries in a location. You will be conducting in different locations. Because direct primaries means if you come to Oka Ward 1, the primaries is ongoing in Ward 2, in Ward 3. At the end, just like general election, at the end of the day, you collect result. It throws up its peculiar logistics challenges. And we are waiting on INEC, because as a lawyer, normally when the new Electoral Act is passed, INEC provides some sort of subsidiary legislation in the form of guidelines and regulations for political parties primary. We are still waiting for it. But one thing I can assure you as a national chairman of APGA is that we are going to ensure a credible, transparent, integrity-driven process. That I can assure you, that you will get. There are no ifs, there are no two ways about it.
So we won't see the conclave thing that was actually applied during the by-election. I heard conclave during the by-election produced Mwachuku.
You see, you can only do certain things within the ambit of the law. That's the point I am making. The by-election was conducted under the old Electoral Act that still recognized the indirect mode. And because we had a major fight ahead, because when people talk about this whole conclave thing, you know, how people just come up with certain terminologies, it is very, very funny. We had a major election, the governorship election. Just 3 months after that election, INEC fixed the by-elections. And the party was saddled with the responsibility of crafting a strategy how we can go into that primaries. Remember I told you earlier on that part of the challenges that I addressed in my manifesto was the issue where people will participate in primaries. When one person wins, others will come together and sabotage
the person that
emerged in such a way that the party ultimately loses at the main election. And so we had these things. I can tell you that it took the ingenuity of our national leader who actually took that decision that, look, we must go into this election as one. When people talk about conclave, nobody who participated in that process complained thereafter. Let me shock you. After that process and the current senator emerged, each of his co-aspirants during the primaries took up the responsibility of being the local government campaign coordinator in their respective local government. If they didn't consent to the process, do you think they would have done that?
They wouldn't have.
Absolutely. The most important thing is that we crafted a system that ensured cohesion, that ensured unity, and that ensured that the party went into that election as one. It's detractors that are actually crying foul over this whole thing. The people that participated voluntarily, consented to the process, had no problem with it. Joined hands to ensure that we had the highest ever win in an election before the governorship election. We had
it was massive.
Yes, I think we have 1,934 polling units in Anambra South. We lost only 4 polling units. It's unprecedented.
Not even words.
But I said 4 polling units. We didn't lose one word. Not one word did we. Even the candidates in that election lost their respective words. Most lost their polling unit. The ADC candidate lost his polling unit. The Labour Party candidate lost his polling unit in that election. And so, you see, when people say these things, it's very funny. I can tell you that what we have consciously promised APGA is that we'll devote our resources, our energy, our talent, our passion to ensuring an integrity-driven primaries process. That I can assure you, it is something I am, and within the ambit of the new Electoral Act, because when you talk about this whole conclave thing, the Electoral Act says direct primaries. And so, of course, the Electoral Act, because when you talk about conclave is the same thing as the consensus that is in the Act. It means that everybody will come together and consent that you will be the candidate. Either they may do some sort of balloting or whatever, however they do it. The most important thing is that they all unanimously agree. If we don't have a unanimous agreement, simple, the party will go. So if people came together and unanimously agreed that this person is a candidate, who are you to complain on their behalf? You know, people can be funny. Who are you to complain on their behalf? They willingly consented to the process, say that whoever emerges, all of us will throw our support. The man emerged in a process clearly that they participated willingly, unanimously endorsed.
So we're not going to see the whole thing of somebody will lose primary election now and then go and buy a ticket somewhere else.
No, you cannot see that now.
Wonderful.
You cannot.
Wonderful. Because we have a lot of mishaps.
Absolutely.
And everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've really exhausted you in a way, but I know that you're a liar. Not you're a liar. You're a lawyer. Sorry. So you're a lawyer, okay? And I'm not open. I don't know.
We have this. We
are open for you to come here periodically to actually.
I've said it earlier on, and I must say it more like my closing remarks.
Go ahead.
I must appreciate this young content factory with regards to, what you guys are doing. And I'll really urge Nigerians, because, I have been a keen and avid follower of what you do on social media.
Thank you.
And I can tell you that the right information is being passed to Nigerians through this medium.
Thank you.
It is very, very important.
Thank you.
Because when we preach about good governance, one thing is that we need an enlightened people to have an informed electoral process. It is very important. And this can be one of the mediums or channels through which we can empower our people politically. When we use this medium to tell our stories, to voice our opinions, and to make informed decisions about certain critical aspects of our country, and you push it out, you can never see thousands of views. Very soon you're going to be raking up millions of views.
Thank you.
It may seem small that, we are just in this flat, but I can tell you, the power of social media, the people you touch, the avenues you go, and the length to which this information is driven, you guys are doing well. And I can say,
thank you.
Just keep up with what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I urge Nigerians to continue listening to Gbam.
Dalo.
Ebe anyị na-ekwu ya ka o si wee dị.
Ọ da Gbam.
Gbam.
Ọ bụ na enwe ihe ọzọ ịchọ adịkwa enwe ike na inwe shout out ma na inwe ihe ikwugo before ịchọkwa re-emphasize.
Well, the only thing I can re-emphasize is I urge Nigerians to actually join APGA. That's the major thing, the major message, the takeaway. Today, APGA has commenced the revalidation of its membership database, the registration of new members.
Digitally.
And by the way, digital. And by the way, we were the first political party to fully digitize our database. The first.
How so?
When we launched it on the 1st of June 2024. Before that, no other political party. After that, I think it was APC that keyed in. And today, Section 77, subsection 2 now mandatorily requires political parties to maintain a digital register. And so, APGA, we are the primus inter pares as far as that issue, that particular thing is concerned. And so we urge Nigerians, it's www.officialapga.ng. Once you log in, the site or the portal is user-friendly. In 2 minutes, you go through the process, put in your details, just use your smartphone, take a picture of yourself, and upload. You become a member of APGA. And with that, you can drive whatever change you want in Nigeria. We urge Nigerians, especially young people, to actually take their destiny into their hands, not leave it in the hands of all these old and recycled politicians. Take their destinies into their hands, get into politics, vie for political offices to be able to drive the change that you profess, not just sitting as keypad warriors. Yes, very, very important. Thank you very much. Well, the constitution is very clear, depending on the age. Of course, as a Nigerian, 18 years, you can become a member of a political party. But to contest the election, depending on the office, 25, 30, 35, depending on the office.
Dalo.
Thank you very much.
Dalo, we're so grateful to the National Chairman of APGA, Chief Bar.Sly Ezeokenwa, Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We hope to do this from time to time to time to time. Our people needs to be educated. That's why we created Gbam. Everything we say here. I had some mother. Camera. Obulu statement. I just make as one.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. This is where we'll bring it to the end of this conversation. Afam Kabu Chijuoke Igwendo. I'm going to come Udo. Good news! From anywhere you are in the world, you can now be our guest on Gbam. As long as you have an internet connection and a mobile device, you can now be interviewed from our studio anywhere in the world. Contact the numbers on your screen to book a session with us.